Chapter 5841. Zheng Dongxing became a little more strict and said in a low voice, Tianqing, how can you talk to your second grandfather like that? Sit down obediently. Zheng Tianqing really didn't have the guts to refute his grandfather. He could only snort and turn back to sit on the chair, but his eyes were still staring fiercely at Tong Wulsuo. Zheng Dongjue smiled at Tong Wulsuo and said, Wulsuo, you don't have to care about Tianqing. He's a young man after all. It's normal for him to be a little angry. Now tell us, what are your plans and arrangements? Tong Wulsuo bowed and cupped his fists, respectfully saying, Vice Hall Master's words are too serious. We will continue to act according to our plan. Since Kai Zhongyang has already fallen for our trap and took out the Yangpole grass, then when we reach the northernmost island, he will be in for a good time. Compared to the reputation of the Five Elements Chamber of Commerce, what is a vice president? It will be easy to get him off the stage. Without this position, his support for Lin Yi will be almost zero. Zheng Dongjue nodded and said, Kai Zhongyang is indeed not a concern, but it's a pity that your brilliant plan of killing 3 birds with 1 stone ended up with nothing. Speaking up to here, Zheng Dongjue glanced at Zheng Tianqing intentionally or unintentionally, wanting to see if he could understand. In the beginning, only Zheng Dongjue and Zheng Dongxing knew all the details of the plan that Tong Wulsuo secretly sent, and Zheng Tianqing was only involved as an executor. Of course, he always thought that the whole thing was just for him to quickly and smoothly get Li Zaoyi. Now, after hearing Tong Wulsuo and Zheng Dongjue's words, Zheng Tianqing was slightly stunned. After all, he was not an idiot. After thinking about it carefully, he understood. Second grandpa, you mean that this matter is actually not that simple? Tong Wulsuo despised Zheng Tianqing, but as a subordinate of the Zheng family, he couldn't show it no matter what. He could only respectfully say, Young Master Qing, this matter is indeed not that simple. If you are interested, this subordinate can explain in detail. Zheng Tianqing looked at his grandfather. Seeing that Zheng Dongxing didn't say anything, he immediately nodded and said, Go ahead. First of all, the original target of this plan was Kai Zhongyang. I found out that Five Elements Commerce had accepted an order from the extreme North Island for that Yangpole grass. So I wanted to ruin this deal. It just so happens that Shangwani has been very close to Lin Yi for the past 2 days. Furthermore, he has dual fire and water spiritual roots. As long as we can cause him to go berserk, we will need the yin and yang pill to save him. That way, we will have the opportunity to consume the yang extreme grass. Tong Wulsuo narrated calmly, but he also felt that it was a pity that his plan did not succeed. And the key to the failure was that useless Zheng Tianqing. The so-called killing 3 birds with 1 stone. The first was to get rid of Shangwani, because he was close to Lin Yi, and would become in existence like Kai Zhongyang in the future. It was much easier to get rid of him in advance than in the future. With the difficulty of refining the yin and yang pill, even if Li Zaoyi and Zheng Tianqing worked together, it would be difficult to successfully refine it in 24 hours. If there was no exception like Lin Yi, Shangwani would definitely be dead. Because if Li Zaoyi really cooperated with Zheng Tianqing, his mind would definitely not be on refining the pill, but would take the opportunity to take down Li Zaoyi. And it would not take long for the refining of the yin and yang pill to fail. Letting Zheng Tianqing take down Li Zaoyi was naturally the second bird. And the third and most important Kai Zhongyang was actually the least difficult. For example, now that the most important target, Kai Zhongyang, had been successful, Tong Wulsuo did not feel that the plan was a failure. After listening to Tong Wulsuo's explanation, Zheng Tianqing realized that he had underestimated this unattractive guy. In terms of strength, Tong Wulsuo was not as good as Zheng Tianqing, but in terms of scheming, he was still inferior. However, Zheng Tianqing, a guy who thought he was a genius, would never admit this. Deputy Hall Master, Master Zheng, the matter of Kai Zhongyang will be clear when we reach the northernmost island. Also, Ho Guanqi, according to my investigation, before leaving Middle Island, he should have exchanged for a mountain-gazing stone. Although there is no evidence, I guess that it should be Ho Guanqi who exchanged for it for Lin Yi. After talking about Kai Zhongyang, Tong Wulsuo changed the topic to Hoguanqi. Zheng Dongjue's eyes lit up and said, "You mean that we can use this as an excuse to expel Hoguanqi from the Pill Hall? No, we must confirm that Lin Yi took the mountain gazing stone. Only then can we convict Hoguanqi. Do you have a way to confirm this?" Tong Wulsuo smiled lightly and said, "Deputy Hall Master, Lin Yi is going to the northernmost island for the God-gathering branch. According to my guess, in order to obtain the God-gathering branch, he should be gathering a large amount of spiritual jades. After passing by the northernmost island in 2 days, I heard that there will be a small trade fair on this ancient warship. We can find someone to purchase the mountain gazing stone or mountain gazing pill. We will know if Lin Yi has it." "Good. Although it is a simple method, it is very practical. It is decided." Zheng Dongjue laughed and made the decision. He then asked, "Oh right, didn't you say that you want to deal with Okuda Dam and implicate Okuda State? Do you have any ideas in this regard?" Tong Wulsuo shook his head and said, "Not yet. Okuda Dam is the highest authority on this ancient warship. It will not be easy to deal with him. This subordinate thinks that this matter can be postponed. After all, Okuda Dam has the Okuda family behind him. It is safer to take it step by step." Zheng Dongxing nodded and said, "That is good. You continue to look for opportunities. As long as you can cut off these wings around Lin Yi, it will be much easier to deal with him." Although he said that, Zheng Dongxing actually wanted to kill Lin Yi immediately. This kid could refine the yin and yang pill alone. If he was allowed to grow, how terrifying would he become? Unfortunately, Tong Wulsuo's plan was the best and safest way to deal with him. Zheng Dongxing had no other way. Tong Wulsuo respectfully agreed. He did not say that he had some other thoughts in his mind. This was because these people from the Zheng family were people who would not remember much credit even if they succeeded, but if they failed, they would magnify all the responsibility. Therefore, it was better not to let them know about things that he was not sure of or was not sure of. Chapter 5842. Genius in a Second. Remember Love Go? The internet provides you with wonderful novels to read. After they set off again, a small trade fair would be held on the ancient battleship. Of course, everyone was free to participate in it. It was just a warm-up for the auction on the extreme North Island. Different from the regular auction, this kind of private trade fair was a private trade fair. One person would take out something he wanted to exchange and explain what he wanted to exchange. If someone was interested, they would make a deal, and then the next person would be replaced. However, Lin Yi didn't care about these for the time being. When he arrived at the North Island, he couldn't wait to go down and have a look. After being away for so long, was everything okay on the North Island? Were his brothers and friends all right? Why was Shanghai Laner suddenly picked up by Ram Jie from the Middle Island and returned to the North Island? This time, before Lin Yi opened the door himself, Wei Shenjin came to call him. Lin Yi had told him before that when they arrived at the North Island, he must go down and remind him to come over and remind him. It was rare for this guy to remember this when he was busy chasing after girls. "Boss, we're about to dock at the North Island. We have 1 day and 1 night. Let's go. I can't wait to see your hometown." Wei Shenjin showed a big smile to Lin Yi, who opened the door, and then pulled over Shang Yuhua, who was beside him, and said, "Yuhua also wants to go with us. Let's go with you." Shang Yuhua blushed a little and rolled her eyes at Wei Shenjin coquettishly. Then she bowed to Lin Yi and said, "Lin, boss, brother Wei and I will go with you to the North Island to see the world." Lin Yi couldn't help smiling. Shang Yuhua had already followed Wei Shenjin to call him boss. It seemed that they were developing very fast. If it was really Zheng Tianqing who poisoned Shang Wani, Lin Yi felt that he should thank that idiot. Otherwise, how could Wei Shenjin and Shang Wani develop so smoothly? "When we arrive at the North Island, of course, I will be the host. Don't worry and follow me. I will definitely impress you," Lin Yi said with a smile. Then he went out and led them to the deck. When the ancient battleship docked, Lin Yi was the first to leave. As the honorary vice captain, he had this little privilege. "Boss, where are we going now?" Wei Shenjin ran behind Lin Yi with Shang Yuhua and asked casually. Lin Yi said without looking back, "Of course, Blue Cloud Pavilion. Come with me." Let's go to see if the place I used to live is still there. When I left for a while last time, there was an idiot who took my house and dared to touch my friend. This time it should be gone, right? Who is so bold to provoke you, boss? He is so bold. Wei Shenjin sighed. It was estimated that the guy would not have a good end in the end. It was okay for him to take Lin Yi's house. With Lin Yi's temperament, he would not care about it. But if he touched his friend, he was definitely looking for death. After following Lin Yi for so long, Wei Shenjin certainly knew how protective Lin Yi was. He would never allow outsiders to bully anyone who followed him. This was also one of the main reasons why Wei Shenjin was now so loyal to Lin Yi. Lin Yi smiled faintly and did not say much. The new player King Horse Spear seemed to be a distant memory. If he did not mention it casually, he would probably have forgotten about it. Lin Yi naturally would not waste too much time thinking about this kind of person. His thoughts had already turned to Shanghai Laner. He wanted to go to Blue Cloud Pavilion first, and then go to Soaring Pavilion to find Shanghai Laner. Although they had only been separated for a few days, Lin Yi was still very happy to be able to see Laner. As he thought about it, he had already extended his divine sense. With the strength of Lin Yi's current divine sense, although it could not cover the entire North Island, it was not a problem to extend it from the port to Blue Cloud Pavilion. To Lin Yi's surprise, there were a lot of people gathered at the entrance of Blue Cloud Pavilion. He basically knew the few people in the middle. Xiao Ran, Xiao Hongkai, and Lu Bianren were his close friends. There were also Su Lingchong and Meng Tong, two old rivals, and another middle-aged man he did not know. Shopkeeper Su, don't worry. I will definitely give you an explanation for this matter. Lin Yi had not arrived yet, but his divine sense could truthfully feed back everything that happened over there. This sentence was said to Su Lingchong by the middle-aged man he did not know. Su Lingchong snorted, his face full of arrogance. He looked coldly at Xiao Ran and the other two, and did not mean to speak. The middle-aged man turned his head and stopped smiling. He said to Xiao Ran coldly, Xiao Ran, you stole something from the Central Chamber of Commerce. Now they have come to find you. What else do you have to say? You have completely disgraced Blue Cloud Pavilion. Quickly admit your guilt, and make a good apology. Maybe Blue Cloud Pavilion can still give you a place. Otherwise, go back to where you came from. Lu Bianren said indignantly, Eldest senior brother, how can you be so partial to outsiders? You didn't even investigate, and directly insisted that it was Xiao Ran who stole it? Could it be that the disciples of Blue Cloud Pavilion don't even have this little bit of backbone? The middle-aged eldest senior brother's eyebrows twitched slightly. He did not know whether Lu Bianren was saying that Xiao Ran had no backbone, or that he had no backbone. In any case, no matter which one it was, it made him unhappy. Lin Yi secretly felt strange. Why is the eldest senior brother not Jia Mufan? Where did this guy come from? Speaking of which, Lin Yi still had a good impression of Jia Mufan. This eldest senior brother, who was in charge of issuing missions, had taken care of Lin Yi. Now that he heard that Jia Mufan's eldest senior brother position had been taken away, it was inevitable for him to feel a little sad. The problem was that Jia Mufan was no longer the eldest senior brother in charge of the inner sect. Why didn't Lu Bianren get the position? What did this guy who came out of nowhere rely on? Su Lingchong glanced at Lu Bianren disdainfully and said, Our Central Chamber of Commerce's selfie cameras have a unique serial number. The serial number on your camera is the one that our Central Chamber of Commerce lost. Take a look if you don't believe me. He extended his finger and pointed at the serial number on the selfie camera. Then Meng Tong took out a printed book. After flipping it open, he pointed at an underlined serial number and read it out. Then he compared it. Sure enough, the two sets of serial numbers were exactly the same. Moreover, this set of serial numbers was continuous with the serial numbers on the front and back of the book. It looked like it really belonged to the Central Chamber of Commerce. After seeing it, Xiao Ran was speechless. He did not know how to explain it. Chapter 5843. Genius 1 second. Remember love go away? TalkNet, providing you with wonderful novels to read. Xiao Hongkai was furious. He had been holding it in for a long time, and was about to explode. Fortunately, he was pulled back by Xiao Ran and advised in a low voice. Junior brother Qiao, don't be impulsive. You won't be able to help. Hurry up and inform senior brother Ku. Let him think of a way. Lu Bianren smiled bitterly and didn't say anything. He didn't know what to do. Asking for trouble was also the same. Xiao Ran was just trying to divert Xiao Hongsai's attention. The few of them could be considered to be gentlemen, and as the saying goes, a gentleman can be deceived with methods. Su Lingchong and the others had precisely calculated that they were comparatively weaker in this aspect, and that was why they were so confident and in the right. If it was a slightly more shameless person, not to mention that he didn't steal anything, even if he really did steal something, he would still be able to completely deny it, causing them to be helpless. The middle-aged big senior brother sneered and said, "Are you counting on the Welcome Pavilion's trouble to save you? Then you're thinking too highly of him. If he had this ability, would he still be a trouble?" Su Lingchong and Meng Tong laughed evilly. The surrounding disciples were angry, but didn't dare to say anything. However, there were also not many who agreed with them. The middle-aged big senior brother turned his head and said to Su Lingchong with a face full of smiles, "Shopkeeper Su, I'm really sorry about this matter. Blue Cloud Pavilion has such a shameful thing. It's also caused you trouble. Come, please take him away. Today I'll clean up the sect." Xiao Ran sneered and said, "It's really shameful to have someone like you as the inner disciple of Blue Cloud Pavilion's big senior brother. If my boss was here, how could a clown like you have the chance to jump around?" Meng Tong snorted coldly and reached out to grab Xiao Ran. At this moment, a voice that hadn't been heard for a long time came from outside the crowd. "What's going on? Are you blocking the door? Is entry and exit prohibited today?" Xiao Ran, Xiao Hongkai, and Lu Bianren's eyes lit up. They had just mentioned Lin Yi, and Lin Yi was already here? Did it have to be so magical? As for Meng Tong, who was reaching out to grab Xiao Ran, his palm also paused in mid-air before he slowly retracted it. Senior Brother Lin is back." The disciples at the periphery immediately cried out in surprise when they saw who it was. In Blue Cloud Pavilion, Lin Yi was definitely a legendary figure. Those who didn't know about Lin Yi were probably the new disciples who had joined in the past 2 years. However, no matter where they went, they would hear about Lin Yi's legend. Therefore, they had subconsciously become loyal fans of Lin Yi. When they heard someone call him Senior Brother Lin, they immediately knew who it was. Su Lingchong's expression was somewhat ugly. He also didn't expect that Lin Yi would suddenly appear at this place. However, he immediately understood that Lin Yi had probably returned by an ancient warship. It was really a miscalculation. "Boss!" Xiao Ran and Xiao Hongkai were extremely surprised. They no longer paid attention to Su Lingchong and the others. They broke through the encirclement and walked towards Lin Yi. Su Lingchong and Meng Tong didn't stop them because of Lin Yi's sudden appearance. "Long time no see. Are all of you all right?" Lin Yi smiled and greeted them. Then, he cupped his fists towards Lu Bianren and said, "Senior Brother Lu, thank you for taking care of my brothers when I wasn't around." Lu Bianren cupped his fists and said with a bitter smile, "Junior Brother Lin is too serious. It's good that you were able to return. My strength is low and I couldn't help much. Senior Brother Lu has already helped." Lin Yi waved his hand and said solemnly, "If it wasn't for Senior Brother Lu's care, I'm afraid that these brothers of mine would have been trampled on by others." Xiao Ran lowered his head and said in shame, "Boss, we're useless. We've embarrassed you. Today's matter was deliberately caused by them. Su Lingchong and Meng Tong wanted to target me." Lin Yi waved his hand and said, "I know what happened just now. Tell me, where did you get your things?" If it was bought from the Central Chamber of Commerce, it was estimated that Su Lingchong would not come to find trouble so blatantly. There must be something fishy about it. Xiao Ran said in a low voice, "The Central Chamber of Commerce is too expensive. I bought it from a disciple of Soaring Pavilion. He specializes in selling some things from the secular world. It is said that he has a way in the Central Chamber of Commerce and can get goods at a low price. Many disciples of the 3 pavilions in the North Island like to buy high-tech products from him." Lin Yi snorted coldly. The disciple of Soaring Pavilion could get goods at a low price. Naturally, he had the background of the Central Chamber of Commerce. Xiao Ran buying things from such a person was simply giving people a handle. If Su Lingchong and the others wanted to find trouble, they could come at any time. Perhaps this was a plan to target Lin Yi's underlings. If no one fell for it, they'd just be getting rid of a batch of products from the common world at a low price. Compared to the cost price, the low price here was already a huge profit, and it wouldn't be a loss to the merchant group at all. If someone fell for it, like Xiao Ran, Su Lingchong, and the others would be able to come looking for trouble openly. You're from the secular world. It's not like you haven't seen these things. What's more, you're a man. What's the use of this kind of camera? Do you want to take selfies and refresh your circle of friends? Lin Yi reprimanded in a low voice. He could scold his people, but he would never tolerate Su Lingchong and the others to bully them. He had to get revenge immediately. Xiao Ran's face turned red from Lin Yi's words, but he didn't refute it. He really didn't know what to say. Xiao Hongkai, who was at the side, came over and whispered to Lin Yi. Boss, Xiao Ran didn't want this camera for himself. He fell in love with a female disciple of Soaring Pavilion. Recently, he has been pursuing her. I heard that the junior sister is very fond of technological products. It just so happens that it's her birthday soon. So this guy wants to buy a camera for her as a birthday present. Lin Yi suddenly understood. It turned out that this brat Xiao Ran had also begun to understand. He wanted to pursue a girl. This was something that needed encouragement. When Wei Shenjin and Shang Yuhua, who were behind Lin Yi, heard these words, they also looked at each other and smiled. They had a better impression of Xiao Ran, whom they had just met for the first time. People who had just fallen in love always hoped that everyone around them could be as happy as they were. Su Lingchong walked over with Meng Tong and the middle-aged senior brother. He sneered and said, Lin Yi, you're not dead yet? But it doesn't matter whether you're dead or not. Now that you're caught red-handed, you have to go with me. Otherwise, I'll represent the Central Chamber of Commerce to sue you to the 3 pavilions of the North Island. If you're smart, stand aside. I'll deal with you later. Chapter 5844. Genius 1 second. Remember, if you want to go? To provide you with wonderful novels to read. After getting rid of Xiao Ran and installing his own men as the second senior brother in charge of the Blue Cloud Pavilion's outer sanctum, his next target might be Lu Bianren or Bitter Guy. After understanding these twists and turns, Lin Yi naturally wouldn't let Su Lingchong go just like that. He immediately laughed mockingly and said, If you want to settle the score with me, why wait until we turn back? Let's properly calculate it now. You owe me, and I should collect some interest. Su Lingchong laughed and said, You pretentious head. You really don't forget to pretentious no matter where you go. Do you think that after leaving for 2 years, you still have the final say here? Fine. Today I'll see how you're going to collect interest from this young master. Meng Tong smiled sinisterly and said, Lin Yi, let's not talk about other things first. Xiao Ran stole the Central Chamber of Commerce's goods, and now he's caught with the stolen goods. If you don't hand him over to us, perhaps the people from the law enforcement hall will be happy to come and take him away. Caught with the stolen goods? Are you joking? Lin Yi snorted and stretched out his finger to point at the printed booklet in Meng Tong's hand, and said, This kind of thing, as long as you have a computer and a printer, you can have as many as you want. You know the serial number of Xiao Ran's camera, so you can say that this camera is yours? I also know that one of you is called Su Lingchong, and the other is called Meng Tong. Could it be that the 2 of you are spiritual beasts that I've raised? Su Lingchong said angrily, Lin Yi, stop twisting words and distorting the truth. How can knowing the name and knowing the serial number be the same thing? Lin Yi spread out his hands and looked at Su Lingchong and said, Why don't you tell me what's different about it? Su Lingchong suddenly became sluggish. He was usually very quick-witted, but when it came to Lin Yi, he became hot-headed and actually choked. No matter how hard he tried, he couldn't think of how to answer. The middle-aged eldest senior brother shouted, How dare you? Lin Yi, don't pester endlessly here. You're throwing away the face of Blue Cloud Pavilion. Hurry up and move to the side, otherwise, you will be punished according to the sect rules. Lin Yi cast a sidelong glance at this guy and lightly said, Who the hell are you? Could it be that you're not afraid that I'll take you as my spiritual beast, just because I don't know your name? The middle-aged eldest senior brother almost spat out a mouthful of blood. He thought to himself, when did I ever fear you taking me in as a spiritual beast? Do you think I'm afraid of you? No, you're the spirit beast. This fellow was also a little muddle-headed from anger. In his heart, he still hadn't figured out which point in Lin Yi's words he was angry about. Su Lingchong was so angry that he laughed and said, Lin Yi, don't be too arrogant. Do you think I'll be afraid of you now? To tell you the truth, this is the entrance of Blue Cloud Pavilion, so I don't want to bother with you. But if you don't know what's good for you, I'll kill you anytime. I don't believe that when this young master is in the right, Blue Cloud Pavilion will still stand up for you. Meng Tong also sneered and said, Why are you talking nonsense with him? Just kill him. Who asked him to hinder us from catching the thief? The strength of these two guys had already reached the great perfection of nascent soul stage. It could even be said that they were half a step into the profound ascension stage. They only needed to wait for the center to develop a stable profound ascension stage potion. Then they would be able to improve immediately. Therefore, when facing Lin Yi, Su Lingchong and Meng Tong could be said to be very confident. In their minds, no matter how strong Lin Yi was, it was impossible for him to improve faster than them. What's more, when the two of them joined forces, an ordinary early stage profound ascension stage cultivator, or even a peak early stage profound ascension stage cultivator, might not be their opponent. What else did they have to worry about? Xiao Ran couldn't help but interject. Do you really think you're so awesome? Don't you know that if you're not careful, you'll become an idiot? Su Lingchong was too lazy to care about Xiao Ran now. In his eyes, only Lin Yi was his opponent. Xiao Ran? When Lin Yi hadn't returned, he could still pass the time. Since Lin Yi was back, this kind of small character was nothing. Meng Tong and Su Lingchong were now telepathic. They immediately gave a look to the middle-aged big senior brother on the side, signaling him to take down Xiao Ran. The middle-aged big senior brother immediately understood and took a step forward. Xiao Ran, I'm now using my identity as the big senior brother in charge of the inner sect to order you to surrender immediately and go with shopkeeper Su to the Central Chamber of Commerce to cooperate with the investigation. If you disobey again, I will report to the Pavilion Master, and you will be directly expelled from Blue Cloud Pavilion. So impressive, Blue Cloud Pavilion is opened by your family? You can expel people just because you say so? Lin Yi glanced at him disdainfully, then turned to Su Lingchong and said, You rely on this kind of idiocy to deal with my brother? Sure enough, birds of a feather flock together. You're all jackals of the same tribe. Su Lingchong snickered coldly and said to the middle-aged eldest senior apprentice brother, Senior apprentice brother Wang, it seems like your Clear Cloud Pavilion's people are not very obedient. Why don't you stay out of this and let us handle this matter ourselves? Senior brother Wang said angrily, Lin Yi, who do you think you are? How dare you talk to me like this? Do you know who you are? You're just a has-been newcomer king, and you think you can do whatever you want in Blue Cloud Pavilion? Hurry up and scram to the side. There's no place for you to speak here. Lin Yi smiled slightly, then glared at him and said, Who do you think you are? I already said I don't know you. Why are you still blindly interfering here? Even if you want to play dirty, you shouldn't play like this. Senior brother Wang was immediately angry, but he was still thinking that he didn't use his sword. So what did Lin Yi mean? Could it be some kind of secret code? Seeing that the one surnamed Wang didn't say anything else, Lin Yi turned his head and said to Su Lingchong, All right, what exactly is going on? All of us are clear in our hearts. I just came back and can't be bothered to waste time with you. Hurry up and scram, lest you guys blame me for not warning you when you're unlucky. Pretentious boss, your pretentious act is indeed first-rate. You really nearly scared me. Too bad this young master isn't someone who grows up being scared. Today's matter isn't over. Su Lingchong thought that he definitely had Lin Yi in the bag, so he said with a cold smile while thinking about how to incite that senior brother Wang to make a move to deal with Lin Yi, and then he would sit back and reap the benefits. You must be looking for a beating. I can't do anything about it either. Lin Yi shrugged his shoulders with a helpless expression, then pointed at Su Lingchong and said, All right then, you stole my medicinal pills. Don't you have to give me an explanation today? Su Lingchong was stunned, then burst into laughter. Lenny, are you at your wits' end here? Originally, I thought that you were just pestering endlessly. I didn't think that you even know how to make irresponsible remarks. This young master, the dignified Central Chamber of Commerce's shopkeeper, would steal your medicinal pills? Chapter 5845. Genius 1 second remember love go away? To provide you with wonderful novels to read. Su Lingchong naturally didn't believe it, but he still subconsciously reached out his hand to touch it. Then his expression froze. This cloth bag was originally used to store some spirit jade cards and some spirit jade fragments, and there was nothing else inside. But now that he touched it, there was actually a medicinal pill inside. What the hell? Of course not. Su Lingchong wasn't an idiot. How could he not know that this was Lin Yi's doing? The only thing that chilled his heart was how exactly did Lin Yi do it. He didn't even notice it in the slightest. If this was the case, wouldn't it mean that if Lin Yi wanted to kill him, he wouldn't have noticed it at all? What? You don't dare to take it out to sea. Isn't this considered as catching the culprit red-handed? Lin Yi looked at Su Lingchong with a smile that wasn't a smile. He wasn't worried that Su Lingchong would secretly destroy the medicinal pill. Su Lingchong said with a gloomy face, "You're framing me. Anyone with discerning eyes can see what you've done." Lin Yi shrugged and didn't have any intention of denying it. Likewise. I only used your methods on yourself, so we have a tacit understanding. I'll give you the medicinal pill, and this matter is considered even. Now can you get lost? Su Lingchong took out the medicinal pill and almost vomited blood when he saw it. This was just a F*King first grade yellow level small rejuvenation pill. On the heavenly stage island, even dogs wouldn't eat it if it was thrown out. This bastard Lin Yi actually said that he stole this kind of thing? Didn't that mean that he was even inferior to a dog? Lin Yi, that's enough. Would this young master steal for such a trash small rejuvenation pill? Even if you want to frame me, at least put in some capital, right? You want to exchange my camera for a small rejuvenation pill? Stop joking. Su Lingchong screamed angrily. He didn't know if it was because Lin Yi wanted to use medicinal pills to settle this matter, or because the medicinal pill that Lin Yi took out was only a small rejuvenation pill. Lin Yi's face darkened as he said, "Su Lingchong, don't be ungrateful when I give you face. I just came back this time, and I'm in a good mood, so I don't want to hit you. If you continue to be so ungrateful, don't blame me for being impolite." Su Lingchong sneered in his heart. Who's afraid of who? However, now that he had a ready-made spear user, he naturally didn't need to do it himself. "Senior Brother Wang, not only are you people from Blue Cloud Pavilion disobedient, but you also want to beat up the manager of the Central Chamber of Commerce in front of the Blue Cloud Pavilion. How impressive. Looks like the day when Blue Cloud Pavilion replaces the Soaring Sky Pavilion isn't far." Su Lingchong swept away his previous angry expression and said to Senior Brother Wang in a neutral tone. Lin Yi admired this guy a little. He didn't expect his face-changing skills to be so good. It was a pity that he didn't go to the secular world to be an actor. Senior Brother Wang had long been unhappy with Lin Yi. Hearing Su Lingchong's words, he once again took a step forward. His body trembled slightly, and he revealed all of his aura. He was actually an expert at the early stage of the profound ascension stage. Lin Yi was also taken aback. It wasn't that this guy's strength had any effect on him, but he didn't expect that a senior brother in charge of the Blue Cloud Pavilion would actually have the cultivation of the profound ascension stage. In Middle Island, this kind of strength was already enough to hold the position of Vice Island Master. Xiao Ran, Xiao Hongkai, and the others' faces all changed. They all knew that Senior Brother Wang was very strong, but they didn't expect him to be strong to such an extent. The early stage of the profound ascension stage was indeed beyond their imagination. Senior Brother Wang grinned and said, "Lin Yi, you idiot who likes to act cool, continue acting. I want to see how you can continue acting. I told you to scram just now, but you didn't. Even if you want to scram now, it's too late." Lin Yi put away the surprised expression on his face. Of course, in their eyes, it was an expression of fear, but it didn't matter. Anyway, it was clear who would be scared below. Love Gobe Small say Netku, this is the last warning. Don't challenge my patience. If you don't believe me, you can try it, Lin Yi said calmly, but in the eyes of Su Lingchong and the others, it was obvious that he had a guilty conscience. Ha 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 ha. The pretentious leader is still continuing to act. As expected of the pretentious leader, Senior Brother Wang, I think it's better if you don't challenge people's patience. Otherwise, such a perfect performance will be greatly discounted, Su Lingchong said with a strange smile. On one hand, he was mocking Lin Yi, and on the other hand, he was adding fuel to the fire in Senior Brother Wang's heart. Sure enough, Senior Brother Wang coldly snorted and said, I really don't believe it today. Challenge your patience? I will let you see the stars in the sky. Before his voice fell, Senior Brother Wang's aura was raised to the limit. With a wave of his palm, a powerful qi that could topple mountains and overturn the seas rushed towards Lin Yi. However, even though he made a move, he still felt that something was wrong, as if he had overlooked something. Without waiting for Senior Brother Wang to understand, his attack had already arrived in front of Lin Yi. However, Lin Yi did not have the slightest intention of dodging, and looking at his appearance, there was no expression of fear. Facing the attack of the early stage profound ascension, Lin Yi just waved his hand, as if he was chasing away an insignificant fly. Then, Senior Brother Wang felt that his attack was like a clay ox entering the sea, and there was no longer the slightest connection. How is this possible? Senior Brother Wang cried out involuntarily. Then, he suddenly understood what was going on with that uneasy feeling just now. Under the pressure of his early stage profound ascension aura, Lin Yi did not make any movements to resist, but he was not affected at all. Not only Lin Yi, but even Xiao Ran, Xiao Hongkai, and the other disciples of Blue Cloud Pavilion behind him were the same. It was as if the pressure of the early stage profound ascension aura was just a breeze blowing on his face. Could a person who was inferior to him do this? Could a person who had the same strength as him do this? It couldn't be. Therefore, the strength of this bastard Lin Yi far exceeded him, and he actually only understood at this time. Too late. Everything was too late. When Wang Shixiang came back to his senses, Lin Yi had already made his move. He didn't do it too bloody. He just used the murderous aura of the 5 elements to invade this idiot's body, completely destroying his Dantian's qi si and all the meridians in his body. From now on, this great master of the early stage of mystic ascension would be worse than an ordinary person who had never cultivated before. To be honest, this kind of result for a cultivator was simply worse than death. Lin Yi also hated this fellow surnamed Wang for betraying him. Together with Su Lingchong, they went against his fellow disciples of Blue Cloud Pavilion, and they were all his brothers and friends, so he did not show any mercy. Chapter 5846. And the Blue Cloud Pavilion's intersect steward eldest senior brother was only a profound ascension early stage cultivator. Hissing sounds of people sucking in a breath of cold air filled the air. Looking at Senior Brother Wang's limp body on the ground, everyone felt a chill crawling up their spines. The Clear Cloud Pavilion's legend, the strongest newcomer king in history, was really not a boast. Lin Yi waved his hand indifferently, turned to Lu Bianren and said, Senior Brother Lu, I was wondering why you couldn't become the intersect steward eldest senior brother. It turns out that there is such a fool in the way. This time, you can't run away from this eldest senior brother. Lu Bianren still had a shocked look on his face. His mouth opened and closed a few times, but he didn't know how to express the thoughts in his heart. In fact, he also didn't know what he was thinking now. He was really frightened by Lin Yi's strength. Profound ascension late stage peak. That's right, the moment Lin Yi made his move, his momentum revealed his strength. Under normal circumstances, Lu Bianren may not be able to see his true strength, but when he made his move, he could still feel it. Su Lingchong's back was covered in cold sweat. He thought that he and Meng Tong could definitely take care of Lin Yi, who knew that it was not the case at all. An expert at the peak of the profound ascension late stage, the two of them together were just going to be sent up as snacks. What was there to take care of? Lin Yi, this pretentious head, was really too scary. At this moment, the psychological shadow of Su Lingchong and Meng Tong was increasing exponentially. Seeing that Lin Yi was talking to Lu Bianren, Su Lingchong and Meng Tong looked at each other, lowered their heads at the same time, and wanted to sneak away from the side. Unfortunately, Lin Yi's divine sense had already locked on the two of them. How could he let them leave so easily? Before they could take a second step, Lin Yi had already appeared in front of the two of them in an instant. What? You're leaving just like that? You didn't even greet us, isn't that a little too rude? Lin Yi looked at Su Lingchong and Meng Tong with a smile that wasn't a smile, and the corner of his mouth carried a hint of a sneer. Su Lingchong laughed and said with some awkwardness, I think what you said just now is very good and very correct. Today's matter should end here. There's really no need to continue. We both know each other very well. Everything can be discussed, right? I don't know if it's right or not. I only know that I gave you a chance just now. Unfortunately, you didn't seem to care. Now you want to leave, huh? Lin Yi said lightly. He reached out and grabbed Su Lingchong's collar and lifted him up. I care. I was just thinking about it. Now that I've thought it through, please give me another chance. Su Lingchong's feet left the ground. He immediately shouted with a deathly pale complexion. The surrounding disciples of the Blue Cloud Pavilion felt that their anger had been vented. They were all secretly laughing and pointing at Su Lingchong. How could Su Lingchong care about this? Compared to his life, his face wasn't even worth a fart. He was really afraid that Lin Yi would kill him. Even if he didn't kill him, he couldn't be crippled like the one with the surname Wang. Meng Tong quickly took out all the spiritual jade cards on him and handed them to Lin Yi. These are for Xiao Ran to calm down. We won't find trouble with him in the future. Please let us go today. If he was alone, Meng Tong might not lower his head to Lin Yi. But when he saw Su Lingchong being lifted by Lin Yi in the air, he couldn't bear it. He knew that he couldn't save Su Lingchong by fighting, so he could only compromise and wait for a chance to take revenge in the future. Lin Yi glanced at the spiritual jade cards that Meng Tong took out. There were 2 yellow ones, 1 orange one, and 3 red ones. There were 280,000 spiritual jades in total. In the North Island, this was definitely a big sum. When Lin Yi first came to the North Island, he spent a lot of effort to hide a piece of waste jade. It was really unbearable to look back on the past. Since it's for you to calm down, you should take it. Lin Yi turned back and said to Xiao Ran, it would be a waste not to take this kind of windfall. Anyway, the spiritual jades in the Central Chamber of Commerce were no different from the wind. If he casually sold some of the junk in the secular world, he would earn more than these spiritual jades. Xiao Ran didn't refuse. He immediately took the spiritual jade card and planned to give it to Lin Yi later. After all, it was Lin Yi who asked for it, so he couldn't really accept it. Can you let him go now? Meng Tong swallowed his anger and asked. Nothing else mattered now. The most important thing was to let Su Lingchong leave safely. Su Lingchong looked at Meng Tong excitedly. He felt that he didn't misjudge him. At the critical moment, Meng Tong was more reliable. Lin Yi smiled slightly and said, let him go? Wait a minute. I can't give you my elixir for nothing. I have to charge you for the cost. Su Lingchong was angry at once. The circulation pill that even the dogs on the road wouldn't eat? You have to charge me for the cost? Don't you have any face? Lin Yi didn't care about what Su Lingchong thought in his heart. His empty left hand reached into the cloth bag on Su Lingchong's waist and took out all the spiritual jade cards. Shopkeeper Su was Shopkeeper Su, after all, and he was a lot richer than Meng Tong. There were 4 yellow jade cards alone, and one was even a green one. There was a total of 980,000 spirit jades, and Lin Yi felt that sparing their lives wasn't completely pointless. At the very least, robbing them from time to time was quite interesting. It just so happened that he was short of spiritual jades to go to the extreme North Island. With these spiritual jade cards, plus the ones that Shang Wanyi gave to Lin Yi and himself, even if he didn't sell the soul-tempering pill, he estimated that he could buy some good things. However, if he wanted to bid for the spirit-gathering branch and the soul wood, it might not be enough. Of course, Tian Chan still had a lot of spiritual jades in her spiritual jade card. Poor ghost, it's just this little spiritual jades. Forget it, I'll accept it today. If there's business in the future, I'll patronize you again. Lin Yi put the spiritual jade card, that was worth 980,000 spiritual jades, into his pocket in disgust. He didn't think that it was strange for the circulation pill to be so expensive. Su Lingchong wanted to vomit blood. This was 980,000 spiritual jades. It was not 8 spiritual jades. You are robbing me so blatantly. And you say that I'm poor? Do you still have a conscience? Lainey certainly had a conscience. Unfortunately, it was not for Su Lingchong and the others. Therefore, after receiving the money for selling the elixir, Lin Yi threw Su Lingchong on the ground and beat him up. Chapter 5847. It had to be said that beating people up like this was quite refreshing. After beating them up, it was simply refreshing. The 2 pig heads on the ground groaned and did not dare to stand up. However, although they looked miserable, in fact, they did not suffer any serious injuries. Basically, they only had some superficial wounds. Lenny did not want to kill them here, nor did he intend to cripple them like this. After all, he had just signed a truce agreement with the center. Although Su Lingchong and the others took the initiative to find trouble, in the end, they had already admitted defeat. If Lenny wanted to kill them again, it would be somewhat unreasonable. Alright, you two can scram now. Be careful in the future, don't fall into my hands. Also, if you dare to touch my brothers again, there will not be a next time. Do you understand? If you remember, then scram. Lenny kicked the 2 fellows, indicating that they did not need to pretend to be dead, and quickly get up and scram. Su Lingchong and Meng Tong did not dare to be negligent. Right now they only wanted to get far away from this terrifying guy Lin Yi. Immediately, without saying anything, they suppressed their grievances in their hearts and quickly ran away. When the disciples of the Blue Cloud Pavilion saw this scene, they all felt relieved in their hearts. Suddenly, they burst into cheers, treating Lin Yi and the others as heroes. As for that big senior brother whose cultivation had been crippled, who would still remember such a pile of mud? Lin Yi also expressed his gratitude to these fellow disciples who were very supportive, and then brought them to the place where he used to live. Although Lin Yi did not introduce Xiao Ran and Wei Shenjin to both sides, they communicated very well without any obstacles. They were all Lin Yi's underlings, so there was nothing to hide. Moreover, Wei Shenjin and Shang Yuhua had just fallen in love. They were very enthusiastic about Xiao Ran's pursuit of Soaring Sky Pavilion's junior sister. They even gave him advice, completely forgetting that he had to rely on Lin Yi to bring him to meet Shang Yuhua 2 days ago. Although Lu Bianren was also smiling, there was still some worry between his eyebrows. Lin Yi did not pay attention to those guys' love gossip behind him, but asked Lu Bianren, "Senior brother Lu, you seem a little unhappy?" "It's not that I'm unhappy, I'm just a little worried." Lu Bianren shook his head, looked around, and lowered his voice. "Originally, I wanted to tell junior brother Lin after we return, but since you asked now, I should remind you first. Senior brother Lu, please go ahead." Lin Yi did not seem to care. He guessed that Lu Bianren would probably say that senior brother Wang had a powerful backer, or something like that. But so what? With Lin Yi's current strength, he really did not need to be afraid of anyone in the North Island. Not to mention that when it came to backers, Shanghai Tianhua was enough to suppress everyone, right? As Lin Yi expected, Lu Bianren was going to talk about senior brother Wang's backer and backer. "Junior brother Lin, you've been away for too long, so it's not strange that you don't know who this guy surnamed Wang is. This time, you crippled his cultivation, but you were too impulsive. You should know that he just came back from Dongzhou not long ago. And he's the nephew of our Blue Cloud Pavilion's deputy pavilion master Zhang. At the same time, he's also a distant relative of Elder Su of Soaring Pavilion. These two alone are already very difficult to deal with." Lin Yi wasn't afraid of these two at all. The North Island was the weakest of the 5 islands, to begin with, and the likes of Clear Cloud Pavilion's Vice Pavilion Master and Rising Sky Pavilion's Elder were at most on par with the Middle Island's Vice Pavilion Master. In theory, they shouldn't even be a match for the Middle Island's Vice Pavilion Master. Lin Yi really didn't need to be afraid of people like that. But what Lu Bianren didn't say next really intrigued him. "Senior brother Lu, other than these two, is there anyone else or anything else?" Lu Bianren smiled bitterly. What's more difficult is that this guy surnamed Wang is a rare master of our Blue Cloud Pavilion. He's the hope of our Blue Cloud Pavilion. If you cripple him like this, it's tantamount to going against the entire Blue Cloud Pavilion. Even if you have a good relationship with Assistant Jia, Pavilion Master, you may not give him face. Lenny smiled and waved his hand. It's okay. I have a good relationship with Pavilion Master Yu. I'll take full responsibility for this matter. After a slight pause, he asked, Assistant Jia is senior brother Jia Mufan? I was just about to ask, why didn't he become the senior brother in charge of the inner sect, but some assistant? Is this assistant position higher than the previous position? Lenny wasn't too familiar with the positions in Clear Cloud Pavilion, but he'd never heard of this assistant position. It probably wasn't some important position, but from Lu Bianren's words, it didn't seem like Jia Mufan would have any say in this. Lu Bianren showed a helpless expression. This matter is no longer a matter of good relationship, okay? It's you who killed the hope of Blue Cloud Pavilion. How are you going to handle it all by yourself? Unless you replace that guy surnamed Wang, right? Assistant Jia is Jia Mufan. In order to make room for that guy surnamed Wang, he specially set up the position of Pavilion Master Assistant for Jia Mufan. It sounds good, but it's actually just a high-level errand boy. It's said that this matter was facilitated by Su Lingchong, and as for this assistant position, it was proposed by Kong Mingming. Lu Bianren said with a bitter smile. If it wasn't for Lin Yi's return, he, the second senior brother in charge, might have become someone's assistant at some point. It's really the work of that idiot Kong Mingming. No wonder Blue Cloud Pavilion would have this secular position of assistant. Lin Yi snorted and asked again. Senior brother Lu, is our Blue Cloud Pavilion now so lacking in talent? Such a guy who looks like an uncle finally rose to the early stage of profound ascension. And he's the hope of Blue Cloud Pavilion? Then the hope of Blue Cloud Pavilion is really slim. Lu Bianren suddenly coughed a few times. He thought that the guy surnamed Wang did look a bit like an uncle. But he, Lu Bianren, did not look like a young man. He was not even as good as that guy surnamed Wang. How should he put it? But thinking about how young Lin Yi was, he was already at the peak of the late stage of profound ascension. Compared to this kind of abnormal level guy, the guy surnamed Wang who barely advanced to the profound ascension stage, at such an old age, really couldn't be considered as a star of hope. Then Lu Bianren thought of himself, and he was about to burst into tears. Being with such a monster, his self-confidence would really suffer an inexplicable blow at any time. When Lin Yi heard Lu Bianren's dry cough, he realized that his words seemed to have hit too many people. He quickly changed the topic. What level is senior brother Lu's strength now? Chapter 58-48. Lu Bianren continued to cry, but he also knew that Lin Yi didn't mean it, so he smiled and said, Now I'm at the peak of the nascent soul stage, but it's a pity that I can't advance to the profound ascension stage in the North Island. To be honest, with Lu Bianren's qualifications, it was already very fast to cultivate to the current level. If he wasn't compared with a monster like Lin Yi, Lu Bianren could also be regarded as a small genius. At my position, I also know some secrets. If I want to advance to the profound ascension stage, I have to go to the East Continent. Junior brother Lin, you have been there, right? Haha, this question is useless. If you haven't been there, how can you advance to the current level? Lu Bianren smiled and shook his head, but there was still some envy in his tone. Speaking of which, the man surnamed Wang came back from the East Continent after you left. It took him several years to advance to the early stage of the profound ascension stage, so you don't know him. If I have the chance to go to the East Continent, I will definitely seize the opportunity. Lu Bianren said with some longing, obviously looking forward to the profound ascension stage. Lin Yi smiled faintly and said, Who said that if you want to advance to the profound ascension stage, you have to go to the East Continent? Senior brother Lu, don't worry. Even in the North Island, you can also become a master of the profound ascension stage. Lu Bianren was stunned. Really? How come I never knew there was such a thing? Let's go back first. Lin Yi saw that they were about to reach home, so he didn't want to continue to talk in detail. Originally, he wanted to come back and take a look, and then go to the soaring sky pavilion to find Shangguan Laner. But now it seemed that he had to delay it a little and help Lu Bianren to advance to the profound ascension stage first. Anyway, Lin Yi's divine sense had already found Shangguan Laner, and it seemed that she didn't have anything important to come back in a hurry. It wouldn't be too late to find her after he was done here. The place where Lin Yi lived naturally had a place to practice, and it was protected by restrictions. Originally, if he wanted to advance to the profound ascension stage, it would be better to go to an open place in the wild, because Lin Yi could attract natural thunder and lightning, but it was too conspicuous in the North Island, so it was better to make do in a place with restrictions. Anyway, Lin Yi's self-made thunder tribulation was not weak. It was enough for him to advance. Letting Xiao Ran and Xiao Hongkai greet Wei Xinjin and Shang Yuhua, Lin Yi took Lu Bianren directly to the place to practice. It was not that he didn't trust the four people, so he didn't let them watch, but he was worried that they would disturb Lu Bianren when he was going through the tribulation, so he simply let the four of them do their own thing. Anyway, there was no experience to learn from the tribulation that Lin Yi made. "Brother Lu, eat this pill. I'll help you advance to the profound ascension stage." Lin Yi took out a Thunder Xian pill and handed it to Lu Bianren and said calmly to him. Lu Bianren was not a person who didn't know what was good, and at this stage, he was looking for a Thunder Xian pill to advance, so of course he would study more about these things. Thunder Xian pill. "Brother Lin, you actually have a Thunder Xian pill. And it's even a special grade pill." Lu Bianren couldn't help but exclaim again and again, although the Thunder Xian pill was the most precious thing to him. Because it was too precious, he was a little embarrassed to accept it. Lin Yi waved his hand indifferently and said, "I refined this myself. The extra Thunder Xian pill is useless to me, Brother Lu. Hurry up and eat it." Lu Bianren was stunned. He knew that Lin Yi could refine pills, but he didn't know that Lin Yi's Tao of alchemy was so powerful that he could even refine a Thunder Xian pill of the highest quality. Although he didn't know how Lin Yi was going to help him, since he wanted him to eat the Thunder Xian pill, he didn't ask much and directly swallowed it. Then the Thunder Tribulation began. Using the created Thunder Tribulation to help people advance to the profound ascension stage, Lin Yi could be said to be a piece of cake. Lu Bianren's advancement was naturally daunting, but not dangerous, and very smoothly broke through. At this time, the higher-ups of the Blue Cloud Pavilion were already in an uproar. The sudden fall of a star of hope in the early stage of the profound ascension stage was definitely a big event that could cause a strong earthquake in the Blue Cloud Pavilion. Therefore, the higher-ups of the Blue Cloud Pavilion, led by the Pavilion Master Yu Xinjiang, gathered in a very short period of time. Even those who were in seclusion were called out one by one. In fact, the elders of the Blue Cloud Pavilion couldn't make any decisions. Attending this kind of meeting was just to make up the numbers. The real important person in the Blue Cloud Pavilion was the Pavilion Master Yu Xinjiang, and the two deputy Pavilion Masters Yao Luanzhen and Zhang Ziqiang. But Yao Luanzhen was still missing, so Zhang Ziqiang could almost compete with Yu Xinjiang. The inner sect steward surnamed Wang, who was killed by Lin Yi, was the nephew of the deputy Pavilion Master Zhang Ziqiang. After receiving the news, he immediately found Yu Xinjiang and requested to hold this meeting. It's not that Zhang Ziqiang didn't want to directly find Lin Yi for revenge. The problem was that Lin Yi's strength had already spread, the peak of the profound ascension late stage. And in the Blue Cloud Pavilion, Lin Yi had always appeared with a tough attitude of challenging those of a higher level. Zhang Ziqiang himself didn't have the slightest confidence to deal with Lin Yi, so he could only use this method. Pavilion Master, Lin Yi, this little disciple actually dared to kill the inner sect steward in front of our Blue Cloud Pavilion. This is simply looking down on our Blue Cloud Pavilion. This time, no matter what, we can't let this kind of person go. Otherwise, among the 3 pavilions in the North Island, our Blue Cloud Pavilion will never be able to raise our heads again. If the Pavilion Master feels that it's difficult, or you can directly let the people of the Law Enforcement Hall deal with this matter. Zhang Ziqiang said loudly with a face full of righteous indignation. But no one present was a fool. They all knew what he was doing. Although Jia Mufan was a senior errand boy, The pavilion master's assistant was still qualified to appear on this occasion. When he heard Zhang Ziqiang's words, he immediately cupped his fists to Yu Zhenyang and said, "Pavilion master, there's a reason for this matter, we can't easily come to a conclusion. I still know Lin Yi, he's not an unreasonable person so." Zhang Ziqiang interrupted with a sneer. "Assistant Jia, according to what you said, Lin Yi is not an unreasonable person who can kill our intersect steward in Blue Cloud Pavilion at will. So if he is unreasonable, can't he just come here and kill all of us? Assistant Jia, whether it is as a person or as a person, we must maintain fairness. You can't be partial to the murderer, just because Lin Yi has a good personal relationship with you." Jia Mufan suddenly became angry. This damn bastard is obviously the most selfish one. But he actually has the cheek to talk about fairness in such a sincere and heartfelt manner. This is simply shameless. However, with his identity, he really couldn't say anything on this occasion. Just now when he spoke out of desperation, he was already considered to have crossed the line. Chapter 5849. A Genius in a Second. Remember to go? We provide you with wonderful novels to read. Originally, Jia Mufan's position as the steward's big brother had been replaced, and he'd become the pavilion master's assistant. Yu Zhenyang felt a bit guilty, and naturally he had to support him now. Zhang Ziqiang immediately cupped his fists and said, "Of course not, pavilion master. Our Blue Cloud Pavilion can develop to this point all because of pavilion master's good leadership. I believe that no matter what happens, pavilion master will maintain a fair and just judgment." Yu Zhenyang's face was a little ugly. Although Zhang Ziqiang was praising him, Blue Cloud Pavilion was the weakest of the 3 pavilions on the North Island. If he said that it was all because of his good leadership, didn't it mean that Yu Zhenyang had no contribution to Blue Cloud Pavilion at all? However, Yu Zhenyang, as the pavilion master of Blue Cloud Pavilion, certainly could not care about some verbal problems at this time. He still said to Zhang Ziqiang indifferently, "We still haven't come to a conclusion about the ins and outs of this matter. Let's find a few disciples at the scene and ask them first." If it were someone else, even if Yu Zhenyang didn't order the enforcement hall to take action, he would still capture the person and bring him back before doing anything else. But Lin Yi was different. Putting aside his personal importance to Clear Cloud Pavilion, just Shangguan Tianhua's face was something Yu Zhenyang had to consider. Who on the Northern Island didn't know that Lin Yi was a junior that even Shangguan Tianhua valued? Zhang Ziqiang said with slight anger, "Pavilion master, do you not believe my words? I have investigated this matter clearly. Lin Yi was arrogant and domineering. He killed our Blue Cloud Pavilion's inner core steward in front of so many disciples and shopkeeper Su of the Central Chamber of Commerce. What else is there to ask? He should have killed him directly." Anger gradually rose in Yu Zhenyang's heart. Even if this Zhang Ziqiang's strength was not weaker than his, it shouldn't be enough to overwhelm him. But now this Zhang Ziqiang dared to be so overbearing, not putting him, the Clear Cloud Pavilion's pavilion lord, in his eyes. Did he really think that he Yu Zhenyang was made of clay? Deputy Pavilion Master Zhang, do you have the final say in Blue Cloud Pavilion now? Yu Zhenyang said coldly, emphasizing the word deputy. Zhang Ziqiang's eyes narrowed into slits. Then he laughed lightly and said, "Of course not. Everything in the Clear Cloud Pavilion is naturally decided by Pavilion Lord Yu. It's just that our Clear Cloud Pavilion's inner court steward, eldest senior brother, was killed by someone. Moreover, he was an early-stage profound ascension master, the hope of the Clear Cloud Pavilion. If Pavilion Lord Yu did not have any reaction, it would really disappoint the hearts of the disciples." As soon as these words came out, the elders who supported Zhang Ziqiang immediately chimed in. If Yu Zhenyang didn't handle this well, they would probably force him to abdicate. The corners of Yu Zhenyang's mouth curled into a faint sneer. His eyes slowly swept across the faces of the elders, causing them to lower their voices one by one. In the end, they all turned their heads away, not daring to make eye contact with him. Zhang Ziqiang's heart trembled slightly. He knew that Yu Zhenyang, as the pavilion master, had accumulated a lot of power. He was afraid that he wouldn't be able to shake his position for a while. As for the matter of Lin Yi's murder, since Deputy Pavilion Master Zhang said that there is no need to investigate it, then there is no need to investigate it. However, this matter happened outside the gate of Blue Cloud Pavilion. Strictly speaking, it is no longer within the scope of our Blue Cloud Pavilion. In addition, both sides are disciples of Blue Cloud Pavilion, so it can only be regarded as their personal grievances. Although there is some suspicion of violating the sect's rules, it is not good for us to interfere too much. Yu Zhenyang said slowly. His words had already made it clear that he wanted to absolve Lin Yi. Of course, Zhang Zichang couldn't agree just like that, and immediately objected. Pavilion Master Yu, isn't it a bit wrong to say that? The gate of Blue Cloud Pavilion, how is it not within the scope of Blue Cloud Pavilion? Even if you say that it is not their fault for fighting in the sect, but it is a fact that Lin Yi killed a profound ascending stage master. Even if it was somewhere else. Don't tell me that a profound ascending stage disciple of Blue Cloud Pavilion was killed. Can't we take revenge? If that's the case, Blue Cloud Pavilion should close down as soon as possible. Yu Zhenyang looked at Zhang Zichang and suddenly smiled. Deputy Pavilion Master Zhang, Lin Yi killed a profound ascending stage master. But he is also a disciple of Blue Cloud Pavilion. Tell me, after Blue Cloud Pavilion lost a master, who took 40 years to reach the profound ascending stage, do they still want to kill a genius who is already at the peak of profound ascending stage late stage at the age of 20? The audience was silent. Zhang Zichang was also stunned. Of course, he knew that Lin Yi was also a disciple of Blue Cloud Pavilion. And he also knew that Lin Yi was a master at the peak of profound ascending stage late stage. But he had never thought about how important such a person was to Blue Cloud Pavilion. If a person who took 40 years to ascend from nascent soul great perfection to profound ascending stage early stage was the hope of Blue Cloud Pavilion, then what about a freak like Lin Yi? He would be the key figure in the rise of Blue Cloud Pavilion, right? Pavilion Master Yu is right. Lin Yi is a rare genius. How can he be killed just like that? He's just a mystic ascension early stage master. It doesn't matter if he's killed. That kind of trash can't even compare to one of Lin Yi's fingers. One of the elders who supported Yu Zhenyang immediately voiced his support. They didn't have much help in deciding things, but they did the work of waving the flag and shouting the battle cry very smoothly. Zhang Zichang was not willing to fail like this. He still stubbornly said, I don't deny that Lin Yi is a real genius, but he will not stay in Blue Cloud Pavilion at all. You see, he has been wandering around in the past few years. Not only did he go to West Island to play, but also opened a damn pavilion in Middle Island. Pavilion Master Yu, do you think he will always stay in North Island? This time Yu Zhenyang didn't speak, because what Zhang Zichang said was the truth. Not only that, Lin Yi was also a person valued by Shanghai Tianhua. Who knew if he would go to Chongtian Pavilion in the end? If he refuted Zhang Zichang now, and Lin Yi left Blue Cloud Pavilion in the end, then his prestige as a pavilion master would suffer a fatal blow. Jia Mufan couldn't help but interject. Junior brother Lin is a person who knows the big picture. As long as we make it clear to him, I believe he will definitely stay in Blue Cloud Pavilion. With junior brother Lin's strength, 1-for-1, Blue Cloud Pavilion will not suffer a loss. Although it was a bit too cruel to use a person's life to say 1-for-1, Jia Mufan didn't have a good impression of the guy who took his position as the inner disciple steward. If Lin Yi could kill that guy, it was exactly what he wanted. Zhang Zichang roared. Shut up. Is this a place where you can speak? Do you want to die by disturbing the normal proceedings of the meeting again and again? Chapter 5850. Genius 1 second. Remember, if you want to go, we provide you with wonderful novels to read. Originally, it was not suitable for Yu Zhenyang to make remarks like Jia Mufan. But now, in order to support him, he could openly express his thoughts through Jia Mufan's mouth, which made him very satisfied. One of the elders who supported Yu Zhenyang immediately followed up. Pavilion Lord is right. As long as Pavilion Lord does not object, Assistant Jia can speak on behalf of Pavilion Lord. Moreover, I also feel that what he said is very true. With Lin Yi's peerless talent, perhaps in a few years, he could become the cornerstone of our Clear Cloud Pavilion. Even surpassing the Profound Pavilion is not impossible. As for the dead junior brother Wang, although his talent is not bad in the future, he will at most become an elder. Zhang Ziqiang's face was extremely gloomy, but he had nothing to say because these were all facts. His dead nephew was just a pile of shit compared to Lin Yi. If he had to choose one of them to be his teammate, even he felt that he would choose Lin Yi, right? Yu Xingyang glanced at Zhang Ziqiang and said, "This matter is settled. Jiamufan, go and inform Lin Yi of the decision made at today's meeting. Let's see what he says." "Yes, Pavilion Master. I'll do it right now." Jiamufan bowed respectfully, then turned around and left. As for Zhang Ziqiang, who had an ugly expression, he didn't even look at him. After a while, Jiamufan arrived at Lin Yi's residence. Lu Bianren had just finished advancing to the mysterious ascension stage and was stabilizing his realm. So when Lin Yi noticed Jiamufan's arrival, he immediately came out to see him. "Love go little say net ka senior brother Jia, long time no see." As soon as Lin Yi came out, he smiled and waved at Jiamufan. Jiamufan had always been very kind to him, so he was very polite. Jiamufan didn't dare to neglect him. He hurriedly stepped forward and cupped his fists, saying, "Junior brother Lin, long time no see. I didn't expect you to be so powerful this time. I'm afraid there aren't many people on the North Island who can beat you." Of course, this was a compliment. There were indeed not many powerful people on the North Island, but there must be hidden powerhouses as trump cards. Therefore, Lin Yi just listened casually. "Senior brother Jia, you flatter me." Lin Yi smiled and waved his hand. After inviting Jiamufan to sit down, he continued, "Does senior brother Jia have something to tell me this time?" Initially, Lin Yi wanted to ask Jiamufan about the loss of the steward senior brother. However, it wasn't appropriate to rub salt in someone else's wound. Although Lin Yi had gotten rid of that guy surnamed Wang, he preferred Lu Bianren to be the steward senior brother. Jiamufan didn't think too much about it. He nodded and said, "That's right. The higher-ups of the Blue Cloud Pavilion had a meeting just now. They were discussing how you killed senior brother Wang at the entrance of the Blue Cloud Pavilion. That's pretty fast. Why didn't anyone come to arrest me?" Lin Yi smiled faintly and said nonchalantly, "It was Deputy Pavilion Master Zhang Ziqiang, who strongly requested to hold a meeting. So it was held immediately. Junior brother Lin, you know Deputy Pavilion Master Zhang, right? The person you killed was his nephew, so he's very concerned about it." Jiamufan explained with a bitter smile. He didn't know if Lin Yi was fearless because he didn't know anything, or if he was just brave because he was skilled. Pavilion Master tried his best to mediate in the meeting to temporarily suppress your matter. However, Deputy Pavilion Master Zhang's power isn't inferior to Pavilion Master's. If there's no explanation, he won't let it go. Jiamufan continued. He didn't mention that he'd spoken up for Yu Xingyang's sake, only highlighting Yu Xingyang's contribution. At the same time, he was wondering if Lin Yi would accept the suggestion. Regardless of whether he would accept it or not, he had to say it out loud. Jiamufan stole a glance at Lin Yi before continuing. In the end, it was decided that junior brother Lin will replace Deputy Pavilion Master Zhang's nephew and become a disciple that the Blue Cloud Pavilion will focus on. Of course, you must promise not to leave the Blue Cloud Pavilion. In other words, you must be tied to the Blue Cloud Pavilion. Lin Yi was slightly stunned. He had never thought of leaving the Blue Cloud Pavilion. Why was he talking about being tied to the Blue Cloud Pavilion? This made him feel a little unhappy. Jiamufan had been observing Lin Yi's expression. When he saw that he was slightly unhappy, he immediately said, "Of course, if junior brother Lin doesn't want to be tied down too much, you can also go to Pavilion Master Shengguan to intercede. With his status, one word is enough to erase this matter. Who wants to intercede with my grandfather? It'll be the same if I go." As they were talking, Shanghai Laner came bouncing in. She heard that the fleet of the Middle Island had arrived at the North Island. She heard that Lin Yi was also on the ship, so she ran over alone. Lin Yi's divine sense had long discovered that Laner was coming. However, he had to accompany Jiamufan, so he didn't go out to greet her. Now that he saw her, he just smiled and greeted her. "Laner, you're here. Why did you leave without saying goodbye last time?" Shanghai Laner wrinkled her nose and snorted. I wanted to tell you, but you were so busy that I couldn't see you at all. What could I do? Also, as a junior brother, you didn't come to greet senior sister as soon as you returned to the North Island. Did you think you're powerful, so you've grown up? Jia Mufan held his mouth and snickered. Although Shanghai Laner was not as useful as Shanghai Tianhua, if she came forward, Lin Yi's problem would probably be mostly solved. Zhang Ziqiang's power in the Blue Cloud Pavilion was indeed good, but he probably didn't have the guts to provoke the little princess of the Shangguan family. Well, it's my fault. We'll talk about this later. Sit down first. Lin Yi smiled and asked Shanghai Laner to sit down. Then he said to Jia Mufan, Senior brother Jia, if it's just because the Blue Cloud Pavilion lost an expert in the early stage of the mysterious Ascension realm and needs compensation, you don't need me to replace him. It just so happens that there's a very suitable person. You know him too. Junior brother Lin, don't joke. Among the people I know, no one can be compared to you. Jia Mufan laughed. This was absolutely true. Even Ram Jia, who was recognized as a super genius in the North Island, in his opinion, might not have more potential than Lin Yi. Lin Yi didn't answer Jia Mufan's words. Instead, he turned his head and said, Senior brother Lu, since you're done, come out. While they were talking, Lu Bianren had already stabilized his realm. Lin Yi's divine sense had been paying attention to his situation. When he saw that Lu Bianren was done, he directly let him out. Chapter 58-51. Lin Yi just smiled faintly and didn't say much. He knew what Jia Mufan meant. Those below the profound ascension stage were not enough to attract the attention of the higher-ups of the Blue Cloud Pavilion. And before Lu Bianren went to the East Continent, he was only at the nascent soul great perfection stage. Even if it was just a step away, it was still a world of difference. It was a pity that Jia Mufan didn't know that Lu Bianren didn't go to the East Continent and had successfully advanced to the profound ascension stage. Otherwise, he would never say these words. Shangguan Laner looked inside curiously. She also knew Lu Bianren, but he looked so serious, which made her curious. Did Lu Bianren change in some way? Shangguan Laner was curious. Of course, Lu Bianren had changed. When he walked out, the aura emitted from his body made Jia Mufan stand up abruptly. He looked at him in disbelief and couldn't say a word. Hey, this is the aura of the early stage of the profound ascension stage. Senior brother Lu, you've advanced? Shanghai Laner wasn't too surprised and asked. Lu Bianren smiled and greeted Jia Mufan and Shanghai Laner, then said with a smile, Yes, thanks to junior brother Lin, I was able to break through to the early stage of the profound ascension stage. It's just that my strength has just stabilized, and I can't control my aura freely for a while. Jia Mufan took a deep breath, and the way he looked at Lin Yi was completely different. If it was just respect before, it was almost worship now. How long has it been since Lin Yi came back? He killed an early stage profound ascension stage, and helped to advance to the early stage profound ascension stage. Who else in the North Island could be so amazing? At least Jia Mufan had never heard of anyone who could advance to the profound ascension stage without going to the East Continent. If someone didn't make friends with a person who could do such an incredible thing, and instead wanted to offend him, then that person was either stupid or ready to die. Jia Mufan was very glad that he had a good eye. Since Lin Yi was weak, he had been good to him. Senior brother Jia, do you think there's any problem with senior brother Lu replacing that Wang guy? Lin Yi asked with a smile. In terms of strength, Lu Bianren was no longer inferior to the guy he killed. In terms of potential, with Lin Yi's support, he was more than 8 streets ahead of that unlucky guy. Therefore, he didn't think that those people from Blue Cloud Pavilion couldn't see the situation clearly. Jia Mufan also thought so. After hearing Lin Yi's question, he immediately nodded and said, I think there's no problem. Junior brother Lu's talent and strength are not bad. In the future, he will definitely become a pillar of our Blue Cloud Pavilion. I'll go back and report to the Pavilion Master and let him know this good news. As for tying Lin Yi to Blue Cloud Pavilion, Jia Mufan tactfully didn't mention it. With the potential that Lin Yi had shown, as long as he didn't take the initiative to leave Blue Cloud Pavilion. Then Blue Cloud Pavilion would definitely be able to benefit from it. Moreover, there were so many people that Lin cared about in Blue Cloud Pavilion. If they nurtured them well, it was equivalent to roping in Lin. After all, Jia Mufan was a senior brother who used to be a steward. He was very clear about this. The few of them chatted for a while. Then Jia Mufan hurriedly left. He had to inform Yu Jinyang as soon as possible to prevent Zhang Ziqiang from making trouble again. If they offended Lin, then Blue Cloud Pavilion's loss would be immeasurable. The anxious Jia Mufan used his fastest speed and quickly returned to the conference hall. Yu Jinyang, Zhang Ziqiang, and the elders were still there. They were waiting for his report. Pavilion Master, this subordinate has already met Lin. After Jia Mufan ran in, he hurriedly cupped his fists and saluted Jinyang. After slightly calming down, he said, "This subordinate has already told Lin about the decision made at the meeting." Zhang Ziqiang sneered. "Is he very grateful to you, an old friend, for secretly helping him find a chance to live?" Jia Mufan replied in a neither servile nor overbearing manner. "Deputy Pavilion Master Zhang has a rich imagination. Unfortunately, you didn't guess correctly. Junior brother Lin didn't express any opinion on our proposal. Instead, he recommended us a suitable replacement." Ha ha ha, what a joke. Does he think that Blue Cloud Pavilion is a place to play house? That everything can be done according to his whims? Pavilion Master Yu, do you have anything to say now? It's obvious that Lin doesn't want to stay in Clear Cloud Pavilion anymore. Otherwise, why would he reject our offer of an olive branch and instead recommend a random person to join us? Zhang Ziqiang was overjoyed, thinking that Lin was really seeking death. Now he had to prove that Lin was disrespectful to Blue Cloud Pavilion. Then, he would take his time to deal with him. Yu Jinyang glanced at Zhang Ziqiang and said, "Deputy Pavilion Master Zhang, I want to hear Assistant Jia out. Can you be quiet for a while?" Zhang Ziqiang was stunned. He glared at Yu Jinyang and finally shut his mouth for the time being. Jia Mufan was quite pleased inwardly. It was all thanks to Zhang Ziqiang that he'd become Lin Yi's assistant. Zhang Ziqiang was the one who'd gotten him into trouble the moment Lin Yi came back. Reporting to Pavilion Master, junior brother Lin recommended junior brother Lu Bianren, the second senior brother in charge of Blue Cloud Pavilion. I originally said that junior brother Lu wasn't qualified to replace him. However, what surprised me was that junior brother Lu has already broken through to the early stage of profound ascension with junior brother Lin's help. Jia Mufan purposely emphasized the last part of his sentence. As expected, his words immediately caused a commotion. Even Yu Jinyang couldn't help but sit up straight. He asked in shock, "Jia Mufan, you said that Lu Bianren is already in the early stage of profound ascension? He successfully broke through without going to East Continent?" That's right. I saw it with my own eyes." Jia Mufan puffed out his chest with a proud expression and said in an extremely confident tone. And junior brother Lu personally admitted that he broke through because of junior brother Lin's help. Yu Jinyang also knew that before Lin returned, Lu Bianren had never broken through. However, he broke through as soon as Lin returned. It was impossible to believe that there was no relationship between the two. Good. As expected of someone that Pavilion Master Shengguan values. He is indeed extraordinary. Yu Jinyang muttered to himself in a low voice. Then he said with a smile, "Lin gave us a surprise as soon as he came back. Although I don't know how he helped someone advance to profound ascension without going to East Continent, this incredible method is enough for us to understand what we should do next." Chapter 58-52. Not only Yu Jinyang's faction, but even the elders in Zhang Ziqiang's faction could not raise any objections under such circumstances. In the cultivation world, strength was respected. Lin was strong, had great potential, and could even build a powerful force on his own. Offending such a person was really not worth it. Therefore, they hoped that Zhang Ziqiang would stop before it was too late and stop thinking about taking revenge on Lin. Zhang Ziqiang's face was as gloomy as water. No matter how unhappy he was, he could not raise any objections under such circumstances. It would only cause him to be isolated, and all his efforts over the years would be ruined in one day. However, it was absolutely impossible for him to give up on dealing with Lin Yi. Since he could not do anything to Lin Yi openly, Zhang Ziqiang began to plot how to kill Lin Yi in the dark. If Lin Yi knew about this, he would definitely have a look of indifference. Anyway, there were many people secretly plotting to kill him. Who would care about Zhang Ziqiang? While the Blue Cloud Pavilion was bustling, the Chamber of Commerce at the Central was quiet. After Su Lingchong returned, he immediately contacted the mysterious man in black and told him about Lin Yi's return, as well as what happened at the entrance of the Blue Cloud Pavilion. Originally, he was hoping that the mysterious man in black could come up with some way to deal with Lin Yi, who knew that the reply he received was a scolding from the mysterious man in black. Su Lingchong, I'm warning you, behave. Our Central and Lin Yi have just signed a one-year truce agreement. This is not a joke. In this year, we have an extremely important plan that needs to be carried out. If you provoke Lin Yi without permission and cause the truce agreement to be broken, I will definitely cut you into pieces, skin you, and burn you with oil. Remember, don't provoke Lin Yi. If you do, you better pray that Lin Yi kills you. If you implicate the Central, I will destroy your whole family. Su Lingchong held the mysterious man's reply with a dumbfounded expression. What did this mean? What was going on? Meng Tong took a look at the reply and said indignantly, Isn't the higher-ups going too far? He was saying that if we offended Lin Yi, we deserve to die. This is simply preposterous. Are we so unimportant? Su Lingchong came back to his senses and shook his head with a bitter smile. It's not that we're not important, but... All right, we're indeed not important. What's important is the Central's grand plan. We've never even heard of this plan. What do you think we are? Meng Tong was speechless. He thought that he was very strong, but unfortunately, he realized that he was still just an ant. He couldn't even be considered a strong ant. Su Lingchong sighed softly. Lin Yi, this pretentious boss, really isn't one to act pretentiously. Right now, he can already talk to our superiors and negotiate, and even sign an agreement. This isn't on the same level as us at all. It seems like the gap between us and him is getting bigger and bigger. Meng Tong reached out and patted Su Lingchong's shoulder lightly. Then he said, Maybe we're too comfortable. For example, now, without the potions provided by the Central, we've never thought about breaking through to the profound ascension stage by ourselves. We've lost our confidence and motivation. It's normal that the gap between us and Lin Yi is getting bigger and bigger. Maybe we should also go out and explore? If we can break through to the profound ascension stage without relying on the Central's potions, our achievements in the future may be higher. Su Lingchong whispered thoughtfully, but thinking of the painstaking efforts of the past few years, it seemed that it would be a pity to give up now. Forget it. Let's not provoke Lin Yi for the time being. We'll think about it when we have the strength and opportunity in the future. Su Lingchong shook his head. He still couldn't give up what he had now. Maybe the Central would soon have the potions to break through to the profound ascension stage. At that time, the gap between them and Lin Yi should be instantly closed. After Lin Yi sent Jia Mufan away, Lu Bianren also found a room to continue stabilizing his strength. Only Lin Yi and Shangguan Laner were left in the living room. As for Wei Shinjin and the rest, they went out to the North Island together. Yuhua also wanted to buy a Yangji grass to return to Kaizhongyang. The fleet would only be docked for a day, so they had to hurry up and find it. Shangguan Laner sat on the chair next to Lin Yi. First, she asked about Han Jingjing's situation. She was one of her two best friends. Of course, she was very concerned about her. Lin Yi shook his head sadly and sighed. There's still no news of Jingjing's spirit. This time, I went to the extreme North Island to participate in the auction. I want to buy the Spirit Gathering branch and see if I can find Jingjing's spirit with the help of the Spirit Gathering branch. Han Jingjing also sighed and then comforted him. Little junior brother, you don't have to worry too much. Jingjing will definitely be fine. If you buy that Spirit Gathering branch, maybe she will be able to come back? I hope so. Lin Yi nodded. He thought that after he bought the Spirit Gathering branch, the Central's reply to the secular world should have arrived. If there was still no news of Han Jingjing's spirit, He was ready to project his spirit back to find Han Jingjing again. This time, the extreme North Island's auction must be very lively. It's a pity that I have something to do at home. Otherwise I could go with you, Shangguan Laner said with regret. This kind of bustle was her favorite, but it was a pity that she could only miss it this time. Lenny asked casually, "What happened to your family? Was it because of this last time you suddenly came back last time?" Looking at Shangguan Laner's appearance, it seemed that nothing major had happened. Lenny was really puzzled. He didn't know what had happened for Shangguan Laner to rush back from Middle Island overnight and not go to the extreme North Island to participate in the auction. "It's not that anything happened. My grandfather has a friend who came from the East Continent. It is said that he is a big shot in the East Continent. I could only stay to help entertain him. Then, he said that he would take me to the East Continent to cultivate. Really? He knows that I don't like to cultivate, but he still wants to take me to the East Continent so far away. Little brother, what do you think I should do?" Shangguan Laner's little face changed into a depressed expression again. She really had an emoticon pack with her all the time. Lenny also secretly laughed. Shangguan Laner's cultivation talent was definitely very strong, but this little girl was really born lazy. If she could cultivate seriously, her cultivation speed would definitely soar. Chapter 58-53. Genius in a Second. Remember to go. Shuanet. Providing you with wonderful novel reading. You're thinking too much. Dongzhou is actually a very nice place, full of qi and beautiful sceneries. You'd definitely like it if you went there. And even if you don't train as hard, you'd still improve a lot faster there. Your grandpa would be very happy. Lenny didn't know what to say, so he just said a few words of comfort. That's right. Shanghai Laner's eyes lit up. She asked with a smile, "Is what you said true?" "Of course it's true. I have been to the East Continent." Lenny was about to continue to emphasize how abundant the spiritual qi in the East Continent was, how beautiful the scenery was, and how Shanghai Laner would definitely like the East Continent. However, this girl's words made him completely speechless. "That's great. I can improve quickly without practicing very hard. Finally, I can deal with my grandfather." Shanghai Laner clapped her hands and cheered. Lenny was speechless and wiped the cold sweat off his forehead. This was the key point. Could they still have a good chat? "When will your grandfather's friend take you to the East Continent?" "If possible, I will accompany you. I can take the opportunity to visit my friend in the East Continent. At that time, I can also show you around," Lenny said with a smile. If there was time, he really wanted to accompany Shanghai Laner to the East Continent. "That's great. If you can go to the East Continent with me, it can't be better. It's just that you may not be able to make it. After all, if you buy the Spirit Gathering branch, you should go back to Middle Island first, right?" Shangguan Laner was still very loyal, always thinking about her good sister, Han Jingjing. "It doesn't matter. I will catch up with you." Lenny smiled and did not explain too much. There was a UFO in the space of his jade pendant. He did not want to attract attention, so he did not use it before. After buying the Spirit Gathering branch, Lenny would, of course, rush back to Middle Island as soon as possible. At that time, he would not be in the mood to take the ancient battleship back, even though it would be safer. Shangguan Laner suddenly smiled and said, "That's not right. You'll definitely be able to catch up with me to the Eastern Continent. I heard that we're going to the Eastern Continent by riding an ancient warship, but those ancient warships seem to be busy recently, so they can't leave for the time being. When you return from the northernmost island, perhaps you can go with us." "Well, if that's the case, I'll go and beg my grandfather. Maybe he'll agree to let me follow you to the extreme North Island." "That's for the best. When you go home, ask if you're okay now. If you have nothing to do, why don't you take a walk with me?" Lenny wanted to see the progress of the King of Junk's forging. It had been a few years, and he didn't know how it was going. "Okay, I just ran out. Of course I'm fine. Let's go." Shanghai Laner stood up and was ready to leave. It was rare that Lin Yi and Han Jingjing could be alone with him. Shanghai Laner felt that no matter what they were going to do, it would be a pleasant day. During the 2 years when Lin was away, Han Jingjing and the others often went there to debug the automatic forging mechanism. Therefore, Shanghai Laner was very familiar with the king of junk. Hearing that they were going to the forging place, although she was a little disappointed that she and Lin would not have the time to be alone, she soon relaxed. Anyway, the forging pool was quite interesting. When they came to the secret cave, Shanghai Laner went in first. It could be seen that she was really familiar with this place. It was estimated that the reason why the king of junk was able to forge here was because of Shanghai Laner. Otherwise, after the hole at the edge of the spiritual jade mine was exposed, it would have been filled up long ago. King of junk, I'm here again. Are you there? Before Shangguan Laner arrived, she had already greeted him. Lin smiled faintly as he scanned the place with his divine sense. Naturally, he knew that Wang Lampa was inside, but the things in the pool were still the same. There didn't seem to be any progress. Little senior sister Shangguan, you're here. Is Miss Han with you? The king of junk greeted them with surprise. Of course, he was most concerned about Han Jingjing, because the automatic forging mechanism was only a little bit away from completion, but Han Jingjing left at the most critical time. If Han Jingjing could complete the automatic forging mechanism before she left, his efforts in the past few years would have come to a perfect end. Brother Wang, Jingjing didn't come but I came. Lin did not mention that Han Jingjing's spirit was missing, but just walked over with a smile. Brother Lin, you're back. The king of junk was even more surprised, but then he said with a face full of shame, I'm sorry, Brother Lin, I haven't finished it yet. Lin waved his hand and said, It's okay, I'm not in a hurry to use it anyway. This time, I came back to see you. You've worked hard these years. It's not hard at all. How can it be hard to have the opportunity to forge such a magic weapon? The king of junk laughed and scratched the back of his head. Moreover, Miss Han's automatic forging mechanism is really powerful. With the help of this good thing, I don't need to stay here all the time. I can leave for a period of time occasionally. As they spoke, the three of them came to the side of the forging pool. Lin poked his head out to take a look, but he couldn't see through it. The king of junk was an absolute expert in this aspect, and although he had learned a lot of forging knowledge and techniques from him, he was still only at the beginner level in the eyes of the king of junk. By the way, Brother Wang, do you know about the ghost-eyed eagle wings? Lin suddenly remembered the pair of ghost-eyed eagle king wings that he had obtained previously. According to the ghost, it was the best weapon for escaping. Although he didn't need to escape now, it didn't mean that he wouldn't encounter a powerful enemy. Even the powerful dragon of 5 evils could only hide under the pool. And with his current strength, it was always good to have more trump cards. The king of junk's eyes lit up. Of course I do. Did Brother Lin obtain the ghost-eyed eagle king wings? Although the ghost-eyed eagle king is not a very rare spiritual beast, it's difficult to capture it, so it's very difficult to obtain a pair of wings. To be honest, Brother Lin, I think you're too lucky. But considering that you can obtain ancient pure lands, 1,000-year tree crystals, and even 10,000-year tree crystals, it's not surprising that you have a pair of superb wings, like the ghost-eyed eagle king wings. Lin smiled faintly and said, I haven't said anything yet, and Brother Wang has already guessed what I have in my hand. You're really amazing. Chapter 58-54. Genius 1 second. Remember love go away? To provide you with exciting novels to read. This is all common sense. The main material of the Ghost-Eye Eagle wings is the Ghost-Eye Eagle King wings. Without this pair of wings, why would you even mention the Ghost-Eye wings? The tattered king waved his hands nonchalantly, then looked at Lin with a fervent gaze. Brother Lin, did you bring the item? Let me take a look. Lin originally wanted to ask the tattered king to help refine the Ghost-Eye wings, so he took out a pair of palm-sized black wings and handed it to the tattered king. The restriction on this is not bad. It actually shrunk the Ghost-Eye Eagle King wings by so many times. The tattered king praised casually, then focused all his attention on the wings. If the restriction was removed, the Ghost-Eye Eagle King wings would be bigger than Lin. It was the same when it was displayed at the auction. The tattered king did not touch the restriction, as this was a one-time use item. If it was broken, it would be useless. Great, this pair of wings is very complete, and has been preserved very well. The Ghost Eye Eagle King wings would definitely be top-notch. Brother Lin, do you have any other materials? The tattered king's eyes lit up. He was already used to Lin Yi's miracles, so he naturally thought that Lin Yi must have gathered all the other materials. Lin Yi took out the materials that Honest Chai had gathered and handed them to the tattered king. I have most of them. Only one thing is missing, the ghost cicada wings. Brother Wang, do you know where I can find the ghost cicada wings? The tattered king shook his head regretfully. I really don't know. The rarity of the ghost cicada wings is even higher than the Ghost Eye Eagle King wings. Although the main body of the Ghost Eye Eagle King wings are made from the Ghost Eye Eagle King wings, the ghost cicada wings are the most important catalyst. If it were other materials, they could be substituted, but the ghost cicada wings cannot be substituted. Perhaps the ghost cicada wings will appear in the auction in the extreme North Island? Anyway, you are going to participate in the auction. You can take the opportunity to look around, Shangguan Laner said with a smile. Lin Yi's eyes suddenly lit up. He was absolutely right. This auction in the extreme North Island was different from the past. It was full of high-grade goods. Maybe there would really be a ghost cicada wing, but the price would definitely be ridiculously high. There was a huge difference in the prices of the auctions in the Heaven Rank Island. For example, the same yellow rank 7th grade elixir might only be sold for a few 100,000 to 1 million spiritual jades in the Middle Island, West Island and North Island. In the East Island, it might soar to about 4 million or 5 million spiritual jades, and in the most high-end auctions in the northernmost island, it was very normal to have 6 or 7 million spiritual jades. Therefore, the really good things were generally not auctioned in the 3 central, western and western islands. Even the ordinary auctions in the northernmost island were much better than those in the 3 islands, not to mention the top auction this time. Love Gobe smalt say neck because of this. Although Lin Yi had tens of millions of spiritual jades, he could only refine some elixirs as a backup. Who knew how high the price of the spirit gathering branch and the soul nourishing wood would be? There were no lack of rich people in the world. It would be best if I could get the ghost cicada wings in this auction. Brother Wang, do you have anything else you want me to buy? Lin Yi wanted to buy it, so he simply asked the King of Rags what he needed. Any problem that could be solved with spiritual jades was not a problem. The King of Rags carefully put away the Ghost Eye Eagle King's wings and several materials, then shook his head and said, I don't need them for the time being. Now I have to concentrate on refining your weapon and wings. I can't think about other things, lest I get distracted. Shangguan Laner giggled and said, Then do you want to close your small forging pavilion? Lest you get distracted. It was just a joke. But the King of Rags nodded naturally and said, If I have the ghost cicada wings, I really need to close my business for a while. But now I can't do anything, so I have to keep it open. Lin Yi asked in surprise, Brother Wang, did you open your own forging pavilion? Not bad, not bad. Your business should be good, right? The King of Rags scratched his head in embarrassment and said, I don't retail. Speaking of which, thanks to you, I have the opportunity to cooperate with President Hong of the Hong Chamber of Commerce. This forging pavilion is just a place where I refine some small things in my free time, and then hand them over to the Hong Chamber of Commerce for sale. On the one hand, it can increase my ability of forging weapons, and on the other hand, I can earn some pocket money. When Lin Yi first met the King of Rags, he was so poor. Of course, at that time, Lin Yi only had dozens or hundreds of spiritual jades with him, which was at most a little better than the King of Rags. Isn't it good? Speaking of which, how is Brother Hong Zhong now? I'm going to visit him this time. Is he still in the North Island? Lin Yi casually asked about Hong Zhong. When he left Middle Island, he was worried that something had happened to Hong Zhong, which caused the people of the Hong Chamber of Commerce to be so hostile to him, the honorary vice president. But according to the King of Rags, it seemed that nothing had happened to Hong Zhong. President Hong is very good. He often mentions you. Why don't we go to him now? After saying that, the King of Rags turned around and ran back to the casting pool. He carefully observed the situation inside, and then operated the automatic casting mechanism for a while. Then he turned back and said, "Well, we can go now. There will be no problem here for a short time." Lenny nodded and said, "Then let's go. I don't have much time to come back this time." After visiting the Hong Chamber of Commerce, it's almost time to go back to the ship. Shangguan Laner's eyes dimmed slightly. Obviously, she didn't want to be separated from Lin Yi so soon. But she immediately recovered and didn't let them find out what she was thinking. Anyway, Lin Yi had promised her that he would catch up with her soon and then go to East Continent together. After the three of them exited the cave, the King of Dilapidation closed the formation that he had set up outside. As a blacksmith, it was a must to learn Formation Dao. Otherwise, it would be impossible for him to refine high-level items. Over the past 2 years, his understanding of Formation Dao had improved by several levels. Therefore, the formation at the entrance of the cave was quite good. At least, it could prevent people from entering the cave casually, talking and laughing. It took them a long time to arrive at the Hong Chamber of Commerce. The King of Rags didn't follow them in. Instead, he said that he would go to his forging pavilion to have a look, and would come back to find Lin Yi later. Chapter 58-55. When the shop assistant inside saw Lin Yi and Shangguan Laner, he immediately greeted them with a smile and bowed respectfully. "Vice President Lin, Miss Shangguan, long time no see. Are you looking for shopkeeper Hong?" Lin Yi felt that the shop assistant was a little familiar. He probably knew him before, so he knew his identity at a glance. "Is shopkeeper Hong here? If he is, please inform him." Lin Yi smiled and said gently to the shop assistant, "Vice President Lin, you're too polite. Shopkeeper Hong is upstairs. He has instructed that if Vice President Lin comes, you can go and look for him directly. There's no need for any notification." The shop assistant turned sideways and respectfully invited them upstairs. Lin Yi nodded and said, "Thank you very much." Shangguan Laner giggled and said, "Little junior brother, you have a big face. If I came here, I wouldn't have this kind of treatment. I have to inform before I can see shopkeeper Hong." Lin Yi smiled faintly and said, "If you are also the honorary vice president of the Hong Chamber of Commerce, you will definitely have this privilege." That being said, Lin Yi also knew that this was not the case. Hong Zhong valued him completely because of their friendship, not because he was an honorary vice president. Otherwise, even if there was a vice president of the Hong Chamber of Commerce, Hong Zhong would completely ignore him. "Ha ha ha ha, Miss Shangguan, you are a rare guest. Just come and find me in the future. Let's see who dares to stop you." Hong Zhong appeared above the stairs. He should know that Lin Yi was here, so he specially came out to greet Lin Yi. Lin Yi went forward and cupped his fists. He smiled and said, "Brother Hong, long time no see. You are still as elegant as before." Hong Zhong came up and pulled Lin Yi's arm. He smiled and said, "You also know that we haven't seen each other for a long time. Tell me, how should I punish you?" "Why is there a punishment? Then I will have to eat and live here every day from now on." Lin Yi also said with a smile. He and Hong Zhong got along because of interests, but gradually, they became sincere friends. Especially at the last auction in the far north island. Their relationship quickly warmed up. Now they were close friends. "Ha ha ha ha, that's the best. I can't even invite you. As long as you are willing to stay here, I can give you the entire Hong Chamber of Commerce in the North Island." Hong Zhong laughed heartily, and then made an inviting gesture to Shangguan Laner. As expected of the manager of the North Island of the Hong Chamber of Commerce, he treated people impeccably. Lin Yi and Hong Zhong chatted and laughed as they entered the VIP room. Naturally, someone brought them spirit tea and spirit fruits. Shangguan Laner didn't stand on ceremony. She picked up a spirit fruit and started munching on it. She knew that Lin Yi had something to say to Hong Zhong, so she could only quietly be a foodie. After chatting casually for a while, Lin Yi asked casually, "Brother Hong, is there a lot of factions in the Hong's Chamber of Commerce?" Hong Zhong was slightly stunned and said, "Brother Lin, why do you ask this?" Did someone in the Hong Chamber of Commerce make things difficult for you? Tell me. I will definitely seek justice for you. Linny waved his hand and said with a smile, "It's not that serious. It's just that when I went to the far north island to participate in the auction, the Zhongdao Hong Chamber of Commerce was led by a vice president named Wei Jiating. When I boarded the ship, I thought that I was a member of the Chamber of Commerce, so I went to greet them, but they ignored me. At that time, I was worried that something had happened to you, causing me to lose my backer in the Hong Chamber of Commerce." Ha 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 ha. How can I be your backer? With your ability, Brother Lin, it's not an exaggeration to say that you are my backer. After making a joke, Hong Zhong slowly became serious and said, "Where there are people, there are conflicts. There are naturally many fights for power in the Hong Chamber of Commerce. Although I am a member of the Hong family, I am not a direct descendant. Moreover, the Hong family's eldest branch that I support is not strong enough, so it is difficult for me to enter the core." Linny remembered that Hong Zhong had returned to the Zhongdao headquarters to be the vice president, but in the end, he still came to the North Island. So what he said was true. Wei Jiating is also the vice president, but he is not on the same side as me. He is a hardcore supporter of the second branch of the Hong family and has never been friends with me. Moreover, he is Wei Xiaodong's uncle. Do you think he will treat you well when you greet him? Hong Zhong shook his head with a bitter smile. Wei Xiaodong used to be the helper he recommended to Lin Yi, but he almost killed Lin Yi, which was really embarrassing. Lin Yi didn't care. He shrugged casually and said, "I see. But let him be, as long as he doesn't provoke me. By the way, Brother Hong, didn't you prepare anything for the auction in the far North Island?" "I still have to go, but I will go with the people of the Zhongdao headquarters. I won't bring anything. There are no good things in the North Island. I may not even be qualified to attend the auction. The main thing is to buy some good things and make them the treasures of the shop." Hong Zhong laughed at himself. The last auction of that level was the stage for the North Island branch to show off their skills. The main character of this top auction could only be the Zhongdao headquarters. Of course, if someone from the East Island branch also went there, maybe there would be some good things. After a short pause, Hong Zhong still reminded him, "Brother Lin, don't underestimate Wei Jiating. He is narrow-minded and will seek revenge for the smallest grievance. I think he will definitely find a chance to avenge Wei Xiaodong. Even if you are not afraid of him, you have to guard against him." Lin Yi really didn't care much about Wei Jiating, but he still had to listen to Hong Zhong's kind reminder. "I know what I'm doing. Brother Hong, don't worry." Lin Yi nodded with a smile and continued, "This time I can go to the far North Island with you again. We can have a good chat on the way." It was enough to mention Wei Jiating's matter once, so Hong Zhong didn't say anything more. Instead, he smiled and said, "That's right. Luckily, I decided to go with the fleet. If I had ridden an aerial spirit beast, I would have missed this opportunity." Lin Yi suddenly remembered that Wei Shenjin and Shang Yuhua might come to ask about the Yangpole grass. So he asked casually, "Brother Hong, do you have the Yangpole grass here? I have a friend who needs it. I don't know if he has been here before." "I haven't seen your friend before, but the Yangpole grass is a very rare and precious spirit herb. If I have it here, I can directly auction it in the far North Island. I can get at least 1,000,000 or 800,000 spirit jades." Hong Zhong knew about the Yangpole grass, but the price he said surprised Lin Yi. Chapter 58-56. Hong Zhong didn't know about Shangwani, so he nodded casually and said, "That's an understatement. You have to know that the prices in the far North Island are completely different from those in the far North Island. Perhaps the Yangpole grass can only be sold for tens of thousands of spirit jades here. But the problem is that you can't buy it at all." Lin Yi suddenly understood. In fact, he had been to all the islands, so he had some understanding of the differences in prices. It was just that he hadn't thought about it. Because of this huge difference in prices, the Tiandan Pavilion's high-grade elixirs were very attractive to Shangwani. As long as he obtained the authorization, he could resell it to the far North Island or the East Continent, and he would definitely make a huge profit. If that was the case, Kai Zhongyang would be in trouble if he lost the Yangpol grass. Fortunately, Yu Hua and Shang Wani both said that they would bear the consequences of the Yangpol grass. If it was only 2 or 3 million spirit jades, then it wouldn't be a problem for the Universal Chamber of Commerce. Hong Zhong thought about it and said, "Actually, I underestimated the value of the Yangpol grass. There's another factor that I didn't take into account." Lin Yi was thinking about Kai Zhongyang's troubles, so he asked casually, "What factor?" There aren't many elixirs that can be used for Yangpol grass, but its main use is to refine the yin yang pill. The other main ingredient of the yin yang pill is the yin core fruit. Brother Lin, as a high-grade alchemist, you must have heard of it, right? Hong Zhong didn't know that not only had Lin Yi heard of it, but he had also refined the yin yang pill by himself, saving Shang Wani's life. However, Lin Yi was also a little embarrassed. If it wasn't for Shang Wani's cultivation deviation, he really wouldn't have known about the yin and yang pill, Yangpol grass, and yin core fruit. Being praised by Hong Zhong like that made him a little embarrassed. Without waiting for Lin Yi's reply, Hong Zhong continued, "Compared to yang grass, the yin core fruit is produced much more. This is because a yin core fruit tree usually has about 20 yin core fruits, while yang grass only grows in a certain area. So although both are the main ingredients of the yin yang pill, in terms of value, yang grass is at least 10 times more valuable than yin core fruit." So that's how it is. Lin Yi nodded lightly, but in his heart, he was thinking, why did that old man Zheng Dongxing take out the dark core fruit? Although the value of the dark core fruit was not as high as the Yangpol grass, on the ancient battleship, the spiritual jades that Zheng Dongxing received were far from the true value of the dark core fruit. To say that this old man was sincere in saving people, Lin Yi would never believe it even if he was beaten to death. They were the ones who poisoned him. How could he be so kind as to take out the dark core fruit? Thinking of this, Lin Yi felt that something was wrong. According to what Shang Wani said, his cultivation deviation was caused by poisoning, and the person who poisoned him was most likely someone from the Zheng family. If that was the case, why did Zheng Dongxing sell a dark core fruit at such a high price? Could it be that he was hot-headed and deliberately wanted to squander? Perhaps Zheng Dongxing really just wanted to create an opportunity for his grandson, Zheng Tianqing, to win over Li Zhaoyi, but Lin Yi's intuition told him that this matter was definitely not that simple. At that time, Shang Yuhua was already willing to take out hundreds of thousands of spiritual jades to buy the dark core fruit. There was no reason for Zheng Dongxing not to earn spiritual jades. A vague idea gradually formed, but Lin Yi had not been able to completely connect the clues, so he could only put it aside for the time being. As they were talking about the Yangpol grass, Lin Yi's divine sense saw Wei Shenjin, Shang Yuhua, Xiao Ran, and Xiao Hongkai walking into the Hong Chamber of Commerce together. Xiao Ran and Xiao Hongkai were Lin Yi's underlings, so they naturally had a good relationship with the Hong Chamber of Commerce. They knew all the employees, so when they entered, they were told that Lin Yi was upstairs with Shanghai Laner. Without needing Lin Yi's greeting, the 4 of them were led to the VIP room by the employee. "Boss, so you've been here for a long time. We are the ones who are late." Wei Shenjin held Shang Yuhua's hand and greeted them with a smile. Xiao Ran and Xiao Hongkai also greeted Lin Yi and the other 2 before sitting down. "Did you guys find anything after walking around for a day?" Lin Yi guessed that there was no hope of finding the Yangpol grass, but he still asked, "What if they were lucky?" Shang Yuhua frowned slightly and said, "We didn't find the Yangpol grass. Boss, since you're here, you must have asked Manager Hong. It seems that there's no other way this time." Hong Zhong thought to himself that it was the people from the Universal Chamber of Commerce who wanted the Yangpol grass. If he had it, he wouldn't mind selling it to Shang Yuhua for Lin Yi's sake. Unfortunately, he didn't have it, so there was nothing more to say. In the North Island, the Hong's Chamber of Commerce and the people from the Universal Chamber of Commerce didn't have much of a relationship. Not only that, but there was also a huge conflict between them. If it weren't for Lin Yi, the employees of the Hong's Chamber of Commerce wouldn't even let Shang Yuhua in. This kind of spirit herb is something that can only be found by chance. Don't worry too much about it. Lin Yi could only comfort him. Now he only hoped that Kai Zhongyang's customers could be settled with spirit stones, or else he would be in big trouble. Thinking of this, Linny suddenly had an idea. His vague guess just now instantly became clear. Kai Zhongyang was in big trouble. Could it be that the Zheng family's target wasn't Shangwani and Li Zhaoyi at all, but Kai Zhongyang? Compared to that, the other two were just incidental? But there seemed to be no conflict between Kai Zhongyang and the Zheng family. Why would the idiots of the Zheng family plot against him? Of course, if there was a conflict, it was only because Kai Zhongyang was close to Lin Yi, so he naturally became the Zheng family's enemy. Kai Zhongyang was being targeted because of his relationship with him. Lin Yi's eyes instantly became extremely cold. If this guess was true, then the Zheng family really didn't know what was good for them. How could they plot against his friend for such a reason? This made him even angrier than directly targeting Lin Yi himself. As for whether this was true, it would be clear as long as he waited until he reached the northernmost island and saw how much trouble Kai Zhongyang would get into because of this. At that time, Lin Yi would definitely let the Zheng family know that playing with fire would only result in self-immolation. "Brother Lin, what's the matter with you?" Hong Zhong noticed the sudden change in Lin Yi's body at the first moment. Even he was secretly shocked by the cold and bone-chilling killing intent. In the past, Lin Yi's strength was not even comparable to an ant to him, but now he could move him. This speed of progress was really too terrifying. Lin Yi took a light breath and quickly restrained the aura on his body. After returning to his normal appearance, he smiled and said, "Nothing. I just suddenly thought of something else." Chapter 58-57. Lin Yi waved his hand and said, "It's nothing. You don't have to worry. After shopping for so long today, didn't you buy anything?" Shang Yuhua's mind was sharp. Seeing that Lin Yi wanted to change the topic, she immediately cooperated and said, "Middle Island has everything else, so I didn't buy anything. However, the things in the Central Chamber of Commerce are really dazzling and varied, and all of them are high-tech products of the secular world. Unfortunately, the price is too expensive. Although it is much cheaper than the Central Chamber of Commerce in Middle Island, it is still extremely expensive." Lin Yi smiled slightly and said, "Miss Shang, you are a rich person. If even you say that it is expensive, then it seems that their business should not be particularly good." Xiao Ran snorted and said, "That fellow Su Lingchong probably thinks that if he doesn't open his business for 3 years, he would eat for 3 years after opening his business. That's why he sold those junk at the most expensive price." Shang Yuhua and the others couldn't help but be speechless. The things in the Central Chamber of Commerce were all popular goods on Heaven Stage Island. Xiao Ran actually said that they were all junk. It should be that the previous conflict had not subsided, right? They didn't know that in the eyes of people from the secular world like Xiao Ran and Lin Yi, the things sold by the Central Chamber of Commerce, even if they were not junk, they were almost the same as junk. In the secular world, 90% of the goods sold by the Central Chamber of Commerce in North Island were almost obsolete. Ordinary people didn't care much about them. After coming to Heaven Stage Island, they became treasures. Wei Shinjin sighed regretfully and said, "Boss also went to the secular world this time. Unfortunately, it was a projection of his primordial spirit, so he couldn't bring back anything. Otherwise, he could have made a lot of money." Lin Yi's heart moved. Although he was a projection of his primordial spirit, the space of the jade pendant could carry a lot of things. Unfortunately, he didn't think about this when he went back to the secular world this time, so he didn't bring back many things. But this wasn't the point. The point was that the wormhole tunnel in the center had been opened to Lin Yi. As long as Han Jingjing came back and studied this wormhole tunnel, she could trade between Heaven Stage Island and the secular world like the center. This was a good business with low capital and great profits. If the center could do it, Lin Yi could do it too. Although breaking the monopoly would inevitably lead to a decrease in price, and the more products would eventually become less valuable, this was also the goal he wanted to achieve. Otherwise, if the center only made money in this aspect, Lin Yi wouldn't have a good life in the future. A year of truce was not a long time. After a year, there would always be a battle with the center. After a year, there would always be a battle. If the soldiers and horses were to move, the food and FOT. No matter what the center was, the war would be to fight. If Lin Lin he didn't have, he to fight with the center he to he to do he need to. Using the wormhole tunnel to compete with the center was the best way. Oh, your idea is good. Don't worry. There will be a chance to realize your idea in the future. Linny said with a smile. This plan was good. But the most important thing was to wait for Han Jingjing to come back. It was too early to talk about it now. It wouldn't be too late to think about it next time. They chatted for a while. Someone from the soaring pavilion came to look for Lin Yi, saying that her grandfather was looking for her. Shangguan Laner could only make an appointment with Lin Yi to see her in a while. She also wanted to ask Shanghai Tianhua if she could follow Lin Yi to the far north island. Lin Yi originally wanted to visit Shanghai Tianhua, but Laner said that he was accompanying an old friend from the East Continent and probably didn't have time to see him, so he could only ask Shangguan Laner to greet him on his behalf. Not long after Shangguan Laner left, Wei Jiating came to the North Island branch of the Hong's Chamber of Commerce with a few followers. He arrogantly ordered the shop assistant, "Where is Hong Zhong? Ask him to come out and see me." The shop assistant knew that this was the vice president of Zhongdao's headquarters. Of course, he didn't dare to neglect him. He hurriedly went up to inform Hong Zhong and Lin Yi. Although the two of them didn't want to talk to this guy, he was still a member of the Chamber of Commerce. Even if they belonged to different camps, they still had to give him some face. "Vice President Wei, I haven't seen you for a long time. I thought you wouldn't get off the ship today. I was about to board the ship with Brother Lin, but I didn't expect you to come here." Hong Zhong greeted him with a smile. This was already giving Wei Jiating a lot of face. As for Lin Yi, he followed beside Hong Zhong and didn't look at Wei Jiating at all. Since this guy didn't give him face on the ancient warship, he naturally didn't need to be polite to this fool. Lin Yi never had the habit of going up to his enemies to get on their good side. Whenever he did, it was mostly to give the enemy a big slap in the face. Wei Jiating looked arrogant. He slightly raised his chin and said slowly, "Hong Zhong, the fleet to the far north island will leave soon. Hurry up and take some people to help load and unload the goods. Don't waste time." Hong Zhong's face turned cold. He put away his smile and said faintly, "The fleet will naturally arrange people to load and unload the goods. Since when does our Chamber of Commerce need to send people? Besides, this time the North Island branch doesn't have any goods that need to be brought." "Will there always be things that need to be sold in the North Island? Why are you talking so much nonsense? Just go when I tell you to go. Do you dare to disobey my orders?" Wei Jiating didn't know what provoked him, but he actually directly gave orders to Hong Zhong. Hong Zhong suddenly sneered and said, "How powerful! Wei Jiating, could it be that I, Hong Zhong, have been stripped of my position as the vice president? Or have you become the president of our Hong's Chamber of Commerce? Otherwise, I really don't know where you get the confidence to order me. What kind of vice president are you? How dare you talk back to me?" Wei Jiating glanced at Hong Zhong disdainfully and said in an extremely disdainful tone, "You're just the shopkeeper of the North Island branch. How dare you say that you're the vice president? Which vice president with real power would leave Middle Island?" Hong Zhong didn't give in and retorted, "It was my own idea to leave Middle Island. Do you think that you forced me to leave? Don't flatter yourself. In the end, you're just a dog of our Hong family. Remember, my surname is Hong, and your surname is Wei." Wei Jiating was stunned by Hong Zhong's words and suddenly felt a little speechless. Because Hong Zhong was right. No matter how he wasn't a direct descendant, he was still a member of the Hong family, and Wei Jiating was an outsider. Although Wei Jiating was confident that he could suppress Hong Zhong, after hearing these words, he was extremely angry in his heart, but he couldn't show it. Chapter 58-58. Laney was amused by him. Is there something wrong with this guy's brain? Even I'm being ordered around by him. This is the North Island, not his courtyard. Hong Zhong said angrily. Wei Jiading, Brother Lin is the honorary vice president of the Hong's Chamber of Commerce. Don't you know what an honorary vice president is? How dare you command an honorary vice president? Even if the president is here, he wouldn't dare to do such a thing. Do you really want to rebel? Linny reached out to pull Hong Zhong and gestured for him to calm down. Then he looked at Wei Jiading quietly and said, Wei, I remember that we docked at the North Island this time. We don't need to load or unload any goods. The Hong's Chamber of Commerce's goods are directly sent to the North Island for auction on the ship. What do you want to load or unload all of a sudden? Are you going to unload it and then install it? Do you have nothing better to do? Wei Jiading snorted coldly. He calmly said, I'm here to buy some things, and I'm going to take them to the northernmost island to participate in the auction. So I need your help. His tone obviously softened. Linny smiled faintly and said to Hong Zhong, Brother Hong, let's go and see what good things this old guy bought. That's what I'm thinking. Let's go and have a look together. The corner of Hong Zhong's mouth curled up. Was this Wei Jiading really an idiot? Was he risking his own future just to make Hong Zhong lose face? Hong Zhong didn't believe that he had purchased enough things to participate in the Extreme North Island's auction. If there really was such a thing, he would have bought it and taken it himself. How could he wait for Wei Jiading to come and interfere? When he went out, Linny almost laughed out of anger. There were a lot of things bought. Several big cars were full, but all of them were secular goods sold by the Central Chamber of Commerce, and they were of the lowest level. This kind of thing, in the secular world, would be picked up by scavengers to use. If brought to the heavenly stage island, it would only be used as a decoration for the fashionable people to buy. With just this kind of trash, he dared to say that he would take it to the extreme North Island to participate in the auction? Do you think we're all blind? Hong Zhong looked at Wei Jiading with a mocking expression and said, Vice President Wei really has a unique vision, specifically picking things that others don't want to buy. The problem is that others don't want to buy them. Are you sure that the Extreme North Island's auction will allow you to auction these things? Shang Yuhua, who followed behind, also despised Wei Jiading. She, Wei Shenjin, and the others had gone to the Central Chamber of Commerce to take a look. Of course, they knew that these carriages of goods were the cheapest. If they were to buy these things, the daughter of the vice president of the Universal Chamber of Commerce could also afford it. Because all these goods added up were not worth as much as a fine item. Wei Jiading didn't look ashamed at all. He boasted shamelessly, What do you know about my foresight? You just need to deliver the things to me on the boat. Could it be that I need to explain every decision I make to you? Linny said with a sneer. Vice President Wei is really smart. You know that the things in the Central Chamber of Commerce of Zhongdao will be more expensive than those in the North Island. So you specially came to the North Island to prepare the goods. The problem is that you, the Vice President of the Hong Chamber of Commerce, went to the Central Chamber of Commerce to buy a large number of junk, and then said that you will auction them in the Extreme North Island. I really want to know, do you want to make the Central Chamber of Commerce proud? Or do you want to lose face for the Hong Chamber of Commerce? These words were extremely harsh, and he almost pointed at Wei Jiading's nose and scolded him as a traitor. But after thinking about it carefully, things were really exactly as Linny said. If he went to other chambers of commerce to buy some things that he needed, it was okay. But he specially went to the Central Chamber of Commerce to buy unique goods, and then auction them. What would the Hong Chamber of Commerce become? Even if Wei Jiading was thick-skinned, he couldn't help but change his expression slightly. Not to mention anything else. If these words were heard by the higher-ups of the headquarters of Zhongdao, no matter how much he was the vice president, he wouldn't be able to bear the consequences. Hong Zhong was also an understanding person. He immediately laughed and said, Vice President Wei, could it be that you are preparing to switch to the Central Chamber of Commerce? So you are promoting the Central Chamber of Commerce in advance? Just like that traitor Si Haixiao. I heard that he is doing well in Zhongdao now. You are old acquaintances, right? If he continued to say this, Wei Jiading could directly change his name to a traitor and be labeled as a traitor. Damn it, he didn't have any words to refute. Ha 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 ha. You can't be thinking that these are the things that I want to auction, right? Don't joke around. These are just gifts that I bought to bring back to give to others. The things that can really be auctioned, of course, I have to carry them with me. Now that things had come to this, Wei Jiating had no choice but to quickly overturn his original words, lest he fell deeper and deeper into the pit that he had dug. So they are all Vice President Wei's personal goods? I don't think that's what you said just now. Lin Yi looked at Wei Jiating with a smile that wasn't quite a smile on his face. He walked up slowly and patted the goods on the carts lightly. A tiny electric arc shot out of his palm and circled around all the goods in an instant. Lin Yi was definitely very familiar with destroying this kind of electronic product. He could even paralyze a base in the secular world, so a few carts of goods were really child's play. Wei Jiating didn't even know that the things that he had spent a large amount of spirit jade to buy had all been scrapped. He was still there laughing and saying, "Really? Maybe you heard wrong." No matter what, as the vice president of the Hong Consortium's headquarters, it's only right and proper for him to requisition people from the North Island branch. Even the president won't say much. Only you guys have so much nonsense to say. Hong Zhong sneered and said, "Wei Jiating, you think too highly of yourself, don't you? Even the president won't requisition a vice president and an honorary vice president to help him move his personal goods. Do you really think that the Hong Consortium is going to change its surname to Wei?" Feeling that the topic was going back to those sensitive areas, Wei Jiating hurriedly waved his hand and said impatiently, "Don't change the topic, and don't slander me. You disobeyed my orders and refused to cooperate with the work of Zhongdao's headquarters. That's your fault. I won't talk nonsense with you today. When I return to Zhongdao, I will naturally report what happened today to the executive vice president." Chapter 58-59. Lin Yi smiled faintly and said, "Brother Hong, if it weren't for you, I wouldn't care about the title of honorary vice president. Let's go. Don't bother with such a person with a worrying IQ. Let's go back and continue chatting." Hong Zhong didn't look at the livid Wei Jiating. He turned around and walked back with Lin Yi with a smile. "Brother Lin, don't think that everyone in the Hong's Chamber of Commerce is so stupid. We have been friends for several years. Don't give up." If the title of honorary vice president of the Hong's Chamber of Commerce was a very high status for Lin Yi in the past, and he needed to work hard to maintain it, then now it had been completely reversed. It was the honor of the Hong's Chamber of Commerce to have a senior alchemist like Lin Yi as the honorary vice president of the Hong's Chamber of Commerce. Not to mention impeaching Lin Yi. If he wanted to leave, the Hong's Chamber of Commerce would try its best to persuade him to stay. Lin Yi knew this, and Hong Zhong was even more clear about it. Only an idiot like Wei Jiating would ask Lin Yi to move goods for him, and even threaten them with impeaching Lin Yi and Hong Zhong. No one would believe that he didn't want to destroy the Hong's Chamber of Commerce. Wei Jiating snorted coldly. He didn't have the face to continue to show off here. He left the Hong's Chamber of Commerce with a gloomy face, and went directly to the dock to board the ship. As for the junk he bought, he would probably not know until he returned to the central island and gave it away. After returning upstairs, Lin Yi asked Hong Zhong if he had seen the ghost cicada wing. Of course he hadn't. It was really difficult to find the really precious things in the North Island, probably because the price was too low. For example, the ghost cicada wing could only be sold for 50,000 to 60,000 spiritual jades in the North Island. If it was taken to the Central Island, it could be sold for at least 200,000 to 300,000 spiritual jades. It might even be sold for more than $1 million at the last auction. The price in the extreme North Island would only be higher than that in the Central Island. Therefore, good things would not stay in the 3 Central, Western and Northern Islands. Of course, there would occasionally be opportunities to pick up scraps, but such opportunities were extremely rare. Lin Yi didn't think that he would be able to get what he wanted just by casually wandering around. After a short while, Shanghai Laner sent someone to inform Lin Yi that her grandfather didn't allow her to go to the northernmost island. Instead, she wanted to stay here to accompany her future master. However, Shanghai Tianhua still attached great importance to Lin Yi, So when he came back from the northernmost island, he must go and see him. Since Shanghai Laner couldn't go with them, Linny didn't continue to wait. It was almost time for the fleet to set off again. They simply bid farewell to Xiao Ran and others, and returned to the ancient battleship with Hong Zhong. When Okuda-ba saw Linny coming back, he smiled and greeted him. "Brother Lin, you're back. Manager Hong is also here. I've already arranged a room for you. It's not far from Brother Lin's. Is that good?" Hong Zhong smiled and cupped his fists. "Thank you, Captain Okuda. This is exactly what I wanted. We haven't seen each other for a while. Let's have a drink later." "No problem. I've been waiting for you to say that." Okuda-ba laughed heartily. It seemed that the relationship between the two was very good. Linny didn't know whether it was a friendship from before, or a new development in the past 2 years. Anyway, Linny was very happy. "Brother Okuda, are you waiting for some big shot to come?" Linny asked casually. The number of people on the northern island who could make Okuda-ba personally wait for them could be counted with one hand. Shanghai Tianhua probably wouldn't come. Otherwise, Shanghai Laner would definitely follow them to the northern island. Okuda-ba shook his head and smiled. "No, I'm waiting for you, Brother Lin. After we set sail today, the crew on the ship will be complete. So I'll be leading a small trade fair in the evening. Consider it as a warm-up for the auction on the northern island. This is the jade token to enter. Brother Lin, if you're interested, you can come and have a look." "Brother Okuda specially gave me a jade token? You're too polite," Linny said in surprise. He took the jade token and thanked Okuda-ba. For this kind of thing, he could just find someone to give him a jade token. There was no need to wait for him to come back, right? He knew about this small-scale trade fair. The passengers on the ancient warship were either rich or powerful. It was necessary to conduct a small-scale trade fair before arriving at the extreme North Island. On the one hand, it could give those who wanted to collect spirit jades more time to prepare. On the other hand, it could also consume some of the potential opponents' financial and material resources in advance. Okuda-ba laughed and said, "I'm afraid that I'll forget about you when I'm busy. So, I took advantage of my free time to come out for a walk and wait for you. This jade token can bring 2 people in. So, I won't give you little ways. But you can't save on shopkeeper Hong's." Hong Zhong took the jade token from Okuda-ba and laughed. "Look at your pained expression. Is this jade token very expensive?" "No, it's only 10,000 spiritual jades. Those who can participate in the trade fair are all people with status. This entrance fee is still necessary." Okuda-ba didn't hide it. He smiled and winked at Hong Zhong. "It's just to earn some pocket money. In any case, I have to provide the venue and some food and drinks. 10,000 spiritual jades really isn't expensive. You unscrupulous merchant." "Fortunately, you didn't open a chamber of commerce to steal business. Otherwise, you'd be a formidable opponent." Hong Zhong laughed and joked. Then they walked in together. Shang Yuhua excused herself and left. This time, they couldn't buy Yangji grass in the North Island. She had to discuss with Shang Wani how to solve the problem of Kai Zhongyang. After all, Kai Zhongyang took out the Yangji grass for them. They couldn't burn the bridge after crossing it. Okuda-ba had a lot of things to prepare for the trade fair in the evening. So, he left after saying a few words to Lin Yi and Hong Zhong. Fortunately, it was getting late, and the trade fair was about to start. Lin Yi, Hong Zhong, and Wei Shenjin went to the venue to wait. Ho Guanqi, Kai Zhongyang, and the others naturally had jade plates from Okuda-ba. So Linny didn't need to worry about them. After sitting for a while, the two came together and greeted Hong Zhong. After a while, Shang Wani also came with Shang Yuhua. When he saw Kai Zhongyang, he immediately came over and said apologetically, "Chairman Kai, I'm sorry. This time, I didn't buy Yangji grass in the North Island. I'm really sorry that you got into trouble. When we get to the North Island, I'll definitely help explain. I'll also bear all the subsequent losses." "Chairman Kai, you don't have to be so polite. We're rivals in the business world and friends in private. You don't have to worry about this." Kai Zhongyang smiled and waved his hand. Of course, he couldn't really not care. But now that things had come to this, There was no point in saying anything more. Chapter 5860. That being said, he also knew that the chances of finding another young pole grass on this ship were extremely low. On the other hand, he might be able to find a core fruit. After all, this fruit was much more abundant than young pole grass. Kai Zhongyang didn't say anything more. This matter had already reached the point where he could only take one step at a time. There was really nothing more to say. Slowly, more and more people entered the venue. Most of them knew each other. No matter what their relationship was, it was necessary to greet each other. Therefore, the people around Lin Yi gradually dispersed. This small trade fair was similar to a wine party in the secular world. Eat, drink, and build relationships. In the end, everyone would take out what they were willing to trade and say what they wanted. If they were satisfied, then they would close the deal. It was very simple. Wei Xinjin naturally didn't leave Lin Yi's side, so Shang Yuhua also stayed. The three of them chatted in an inconspicuous corner, drank tea, and ate spirit fruits. It was very comfortable. When most of the people had arrived, Okuda Ba stood on the stage and said, "Honored guests, welcome to the small trade fair that I, Okuda Ba, am holding tonight. Let's skip the small talk and get straight to the point. Let's start today's trade." Lin Yi estimated that there were about 300 people in the banquet hall. And while one jade card could allow 2 people to enter, most of them came alone. After all, they were all people with high statuses, and it wasn't appropriate for them to have followers. Other than the few people who came with Okuda Ba and gave out their cards, Okuda Ba would be able to earn 2 to 3 million spirit jades just from the entrance fee alone. What a good business mind he had. On the stage, Okuda Ba's face was also red. He seemed to be in a good mood. He took out a jade box and said, "Next, I'll start by taking out something to warm everyone up. It's not good, please don't laugh at me. Captain Okuda is too modest. How could something you take out be bad? Hurry up and show it to us." Someone shouted. Who knew if it was someone Okuda Ba arranged to hype up the atmosphere for the trade? Anyway, Lin Yi didn't know this person. Okuda Ba smiled and nodded at the man. He casually opened the jade box and said, "This is a 1,000-year-old truth recovery grass. It can be used to refine the truth recovery pill. Everyone knows that the truth recovery pill is a pill used by cultivators in the mountain opening stage to recover their true qi. Although it's not considered precious, it's still a mystic level 1 pill. For a cultivator in the early mountain opening stage, a low-grade truth recovery pill can basically recover all of their true qi in an instant. In a battle, this pill can save lives." There were already some people below. Although there weren't many mountain opening stage cultivators here, it didn't mean that they didn't have any backers. Truth recovery grass was an important strategic resource for mountain opening stage cultivators. It wasn't a small thing like Okuda Ba said. It was definitely a good thing. As an item to attract jade, I don't have to specify what I want to trade for this 1,000-year truth recovery grass. As long as it's about the same, it's fine. Of course, you can also use spiritual jades to buy it. Okuda Ba smiled and looked around at the people around him. He took out the truth recovery grass to boost the atmosphere. Otherwise, this thing would be useful to him, and he wouldn't have taken it out to sell. "Captain Okuda, how many spiritual jades are you planning to sell this truth recovery grass for?" There were already people who couldn't help but start asking. Those who went to the extreme North Islands auction didn't lack spiritual jades. As for good things, they wouldn't take them out if they could. To them, spiritual jades were the most useless thing. Okuda Ba smiled and said, "I won't name a price. Everyone, just take a look and see if it's about the same as the market price." Everyone cursed him in their hearts. What's about the same as the market price? Could the market price of the extreme North Island be the same as the market price of the extreme North Island? Moreover, there were definitely more than 1 or 2 people who wanted the truth recovery grass. He was clearly trying to get people to bid, and the highest bidder would get it. However, Okuda Ba's move was indeed the best way to stir up the atmosphere. As long as he could sell this truth recovery grass for a high price, the atmosphere would be set. If it wasn't something good, no one would dare to take it out. I bid 1 million spiritual jades. The person who asked just now didn't waste any more time, and directly bid 1 million spiritual jades. Okudaba just smiled and didn't say anything. 1 million spiritual jades was indeed the market price, but it was only the market price of the extreme North Island. However, it was basically impossible to buy the 1,000-year truth recovery grass with this price. Okudaba wasn't in a hurry. This was just the beginning, and he believed that there would be new bids soon. I bid 2 million spiritual jades. Another person made a bid, directly doubling the price. Unfortunately, this price was still on the low side. If the 1,000-year truth recovery grass was taken to an auction, it could be sold for at least 4 million spirit jades. Now that they were on the way to the extreme North Island, no one believed that a mere 2 million spirit jades could buy the 1,000-year truth recovery grass. Just now, Okudaba had only said that the low-grade truth recovery pill could instantly recover the chi of the early stage of the mountain opening realm. In fact, the high-grade truth recovery pill could also recover the injuries of the user, and it was also instantaneous. Otherwise, there were other pills that could recover chi, and the truth recovery grass wouldn't be so sought after. The most valuable thing about it was the word instantaneous. In the midst of an intense battle, what was the difference between this and having an extra life? A mountain opening realm giant was a peak existence to any force. If it could give them an extra life, what was a mere spiritual jades? In just 4 rounds of bidding, the 1,000-year truth recovery grass had already reached a sky-high price of 5 million spiritual jades. However, this was still within the normal price range, and Okudaba wasn't satisfied either. However, at this point, the bidding became more cautious. There were almost no increments of 1 or 2 million spiritual jades. They were all increments of 1 or 200,000 spiritual jades. In the end, the 1,000-year truth recovery grass was sold for a price of 8,300,000 spiritual jades. If it was a truth recovery pill, breaking through 10 million would be a piece of cake. Unfortunately, this was only a truth recovery grass. If he wanted to refine it into a pill, he would need to find a high-level alchemist. There weren't many alchemists who could refine a mystic-level first-grade alchemist in the 3 islands. Lenny felt that it was a pity. He really wanted this truth recovery grass. Although he didn't have the pill recipe for the truth recovery pill, this pill recipe wasn't something that could be obtained easily. With the Shinnon cauldron, refining it into a pill wouldn't be a problem at all. Chapter 5861. With Okuda Dam's good start, the second person immediately went on stage. He also took out a mystic level 1 pill's main ingredient, but he didn't want any spiritual jades. He only wanted to trade for one thing, but there was nothing he wanted. Or maybe there was something he wanted, but no one was willing to trade for it. In the end, he could only cancel his bid. The next 3 people all succeeded, either by trading or selling. In any case, the process was very smooth, not affected by the second person's failure. Lenny looked on with interest, but didn't make a move. It wasn't that he didn't want those things, but he didn't have anything suitable to trade for them. The next person to go on stage was Shangwani. He didn't take out anything, but directly posted a request. I need a young pole grass. As long as you have it, I'm willing to buy it for 10 million spiritual jades. Or, if you want something in exchange, we can discuss it. I'll do my best to satisfy your needs. The audience began to whisper amongst themselves. The young pole grass was indeed precious, but 10 million spirit jades was already 10 times the auction price of the young pole grass. This was completely different from the truth restoration grass. Whether it was in terms of grade or value, the difference was huge. Furthermore, the usage of the young pole grass was very limited. If anyone had it, they would definitely take it out without hesitation. Not to mention, Shangwani had also said that he would consider exchanging something they wanted for the young pole grass. This was simply too tempting. Unfortunately, no one present had the young pole grass on them. The Zheng family sneered in the corner. If young pole grass was so easy to get, it wouldn't have been used as a tool to trap Kai Zhongyang. So no matter how high Shangwani's price was, they wouldn't be worried. Shangwani looked back and forth a few times, the disappointment in his eyes growing. This was his last attempt. It seemed like there was no hope of getting the Yangpole grass. In the end, he could only shake his head and leave the stage. He didn't take out any more items to trade. Kai Zhongyang also felt a little sad in his heart. However, he was still rather satisfied that Shangwani was willing to offer such a high price to purchase the Yangji grass. At least he did not save the wrong person. From now on, he could only do his best. After that they made a few more trades. The items were not bad, but Linny was not interested. He began to wonder if he should go up and ask if there were any ghost cicada wings. If there were, he could trade or buy them. Before he could think about it, something that piqued his interest appeared on it. Moreover, Linny happened to have what that person wanted. Everyone, this is a storage bag that has been passed down from ancient times. The space inside isn't big, but it's not small either. It can fit a dining table. If you carry it around, it's very convenient to store some things. Weapons can be stored inside. It's very convenient. I only want to trade it for 2 mountain gazing pills. If there's only one, it must be of high quality and above. Also, you have to compensate me with 3 million spirit jades. Lenny looked at the storage bag with interest. It looked similar to the ones he saw in the ancient small underworld. However, in terms of space, it was not as good as those in the ancient small underworld. Speaking of which, when he left the ancient small underworld, he should have brought 2 back. Anyway, the Blue Cloud sect was already the leader of the 4 big sections. They could use the Alliance's items. When he returned, he could give it to Han Jingjing for research. Perhaps she could mass-produce it. Although Lenny had the space in the jade pendant, it was much more convenient to have this storage bag. At least when facing people stronger than him, he didn't have to worry about taking things out of the space in the jade pendant. It's actually a storage bag. I've only heard of it, but I've never seen it before. I didn't expect to see it for real this time. Just exchanging for 2 mountain gazing pills seems to be a bit of a loss, right? Some people started to discuss below. 2 mountain gazing pills for a storage pouch seemed to be a very cheap deal. Although mountain gazing pills weren't something that could be obtained easily, compared to the storage bags that had been passed down from ancient times, it was on a completely different level. Didn't you hear him say that the space is only the size of a dining table? It can only store some personal items. Its value isn't as high as you think. Another person retorted. If it was a storage bag with a large space, its value would be immeasurable. It was precisely because the space wasn't big that the person said that he wanted to exchange for 2 mountain gazing pills. No matter what others said, Lenny was prepared to take this storage bag. He didn't lack mountain gazing pills, and exchanging for this storage bag would be of great help to him. Even if he gave it to Han Jingjing for research in the future, it would be worth it. After making his decision, Lenny didn't wait any longer. He casually took out a jade bottle and a green spirit jade card. He went on stage and said, "I have a mountain gazing pill here to exchange for your storage bag. As for spirit jades, I can only give you 500,000. You decide if you want to exchange for it or not." The person opened the jade bottle and took a look. He immediately closed the bottle and handed the storage bag to Lenny and said, "Deal." The mountain gazing pill that Lenny refined was of special quality. Its effect was much better than the high-quality mountain gazing pill, and it was 2 or 3 times better than the medium-quality mountain gazing pill. Even if Lenny didn't add spirit jades, this guy would still agree to exchange. Anyway, this storage bag was of little value to him. It was convenient to carry things, but how could it be more important than advancing to the magnate realm? Zheng Dongsheng and Zheng Dongjue looked at each other in surprise. They were thinking about how to confirm that Lin Yi had the mountain gazing pill. They didn't expect that someone would exchange for his mountain gazing pill with a storage bag. In this way, they could basically confirm that Hou Guanqi had given the mountain gazing pill to Lin Yi. After Kai Zhongyang, the time to deal with Hou Guanqi was almost ripe. When they returned to Middle Island, they could start to chase Hou Guanqi out of the alchemy hall. Lin Yi didn't know that his mountain gazing pill would cause trouble for Ho Guanqi. He was satisfied and tried to use the storage bag. The space inside was really not big, only a little more than 2 cubic meters. If it was used to store spirit herbs and pills, it could store a lot of them. However, he only wanted the storage bag as a cover. The real important things should be stored in the space of the jade pendant. Chapter 5862. Lin was inspired by Li Zhaoyi to trade for pills. He didn't want to be so high profile. But everyone on the ancient warship probably knew that he refined yin and yang pill alone to save Shangwani. So he just openly admitted his identity as a mystic level 1 alchemist. At least it was better than exchanging spirit tempering pill or mountain gazing pill. Master Lin, although I don't have the ghost cicada wings, I have other materials. Spirit jades are fine too. Can I ask you to help me refine pills? The person who bought the Millennium Truth Recovery Grass couldn't help but ask. It was not easy to meet a mystic level 1 alchemist. Although there were 2 on the ship, they wouldn't easily help. For example, Li Zhaoyi's opportunity to help was reserved for the auction on the extreme North Island. She definitely wouldn't help anyone now. Moreover, Lin Yi's alchemy ability had already been proven. Li Zhaoyi couldn't refine yin and yang pill alone, but Lin Yi could. Who was better? Lin Yi was slightly stunned. He didn't expect this to happen. Thinking about it carefully, it was a good business. Helping people refine pills could not only get the recipe, but also get extra pills. It was a profitable business, even more profitable than the Central Chamber of Commerce selling junk. Asking an alchemist to help usually required one's own recipe, and 2 sets of materials were required. Of course, it couldn't be helped if they could only prepare 1 set, if they were too precious. However, the reward was something of similar value. Lin Yi was very interested in the Truth Recovery Pills recipe and pills. So when the person asked, he really couldn't refuse. Well, we can talk about this in private later. Although I will help people refine pills, it depends on the situation. When things are done here, you can come to my room and talk. Lin Yi thought about it, and didn't refuse the benefits that came to him. But the most important thing now was to get the ghost cicada wings. If he could refine the ghost speed wings, his strength would go to another level. Thank you, Master Lin. I will definitely visit you with sincerity. That person was very happy, as if he had not expected things to go so smoothly. Being able to refine the Truth Recovery Grass into the Truth Recovery Pill was the most important step. The eyes of several people below the stage also shone. They had already begun to plan. When the matter here was over, they would go to Lin Yi as soon as possible and ask him to help with alchemy. This kind of high-level alchemist had a limited number of times. If they were late, they would not have the chance. On the other side, Li Zhaoyi frowned slightly. Obviously, she did not expect Lin Yi to take out the opportunity to refine elixirs to trade. She knew that she needed to rest for a long time after refining elixirs. How long had it been since Lin Yi refined the yin and yang elixir? If Li Zhaoyi knew that Lin Yi had to refine at least 7 or 8 batches of elixirs a day, and each batch was made with several sets of materials, what would she think? Lin Yi waited on the stage for a while, but no one came up to trade with him. Obviously, the refining of the ghost speed wings had to continue to be delayed. The ghost cicada wings were extremely rare, perhaps as rare as the yang pole grass. In desperation, Lin Yi could only step down from the stage. However, wherever he passed, most people were friendly, and even a little fawning and nodded at him. The status of a profound level 1 alchemist was far higher than Lin Yi had imagined. The following items were still various, but Lin Yi did not pay much attention to them. If they were not what he needed, they could not arouse his interest. In the end, he only used a Thunder Xian pill to exchange for a few yellow level 7 elixir recipes. At least it was a harvest. When the trade fair ended, it was already noon of the next day. Although he did not get the ghost cicada wings, he exchanged for a storage bag and a few elixir recipes. Lin Yi was satisfied. Moreover, there would be people coming to ask him to refine elixirs, so there would be even more benefits. Ho Guanqi, Kai Zhongyang and the others also had their own gains. Even Wei Shenjin had exchanged for an item that he liked. The few of them chatted and laughed as they returned to the door of the room and went back to their own rooms to cultivate. They knew that Lin Yi was going to have guests, and so they didn't want to disturb him. Sure enough, a few minutes after returning, the person who bought the truth recovery grass hurried over. Master Lin, I took the liberty to visit you. Did I disturb your rest? This middle-aged man looked elegant and very respectfully greeted Lin Yi with cupped fists. He was the kind of person who could easily get a good impression from others. Lin Yi smiled and nodded. After letting him in, he said, "You haven't asked? I was negligent and forgot to introduce myself. I am really sorry. I am the Thousand Blades faction's deputy sect master Samurai. Greetings, Master Lin." Samurai once again cupped his fists and said very modestly, "So it is the Thousand Blades faction's deputy sect master Ling. It's an honor to meet you," Lin Yi said casually. In fact, he had not heard of Samurai before. But when he heard the Thousand Blades faction, he thought of the Thousand Blades faction in the immemorial underworld. He did not know if Ling Tianyu and this samurai were related by blood. It was just that after so many years, even if they were of the same bloodline, it was probably very thin. In any case, this person might be Ling Tianyu's relative, so Lin Yi's favorable impression of him became a bit better. After exchanging a few polite words with Lin Yi, Samurai turned to the main topic and said, "Master Lin should be clear that I came to find Master Lin in order to refine the true restoration pill. However, this pill is not very urgent, so Master Lin can wait until it is convenient for you to refine it." Lin Yi waved his hand and said, "It doesn't matter when you refine it, but I don't have the pill recipe for the true restoration pill. If you want me to refine it, you must give me the pill recipe." "This is not a problem. I have the pill recipe for the true restoration pill." Samurai quickly took out a copy of the pill recipe and presented it to Lin Yi with both hands and said, "Master Lin, please take a look. This is the pill recipe. In addition, I have also prepared the other ingredients for the true restoration pill." After Lin Yi received the pill recipe, Samurai took out a jade box that was slightly bigger than 2 palms and opened it on the tea table. Inside the box, there were small compartments with spiritual herbs placed inside. Among them was the true restoration grass worth more than 8 million spiritual jades. "Master Lin, the true restoration grass is very rare, so I can only prepare one. As for the reward, I don't know what Master Lin wants?" Samurai asked with some apprehension. Even if Lin Yi wanted a spiritual herb of the same rank as the true restoration grass, he didn't have it on hand. It would be best if he asked for spiritual jades. 10 million spiritual jades was nothing to him. Chapter 5863. Although there was only one truth recovery grass, it could barely be considered as 2 materials because most alchemists used the whole plant. Even if there was extra, it would be a waste. Therefore, one plant was considered as 1 material. Lin Yi's Shinnon cauldron was different. Because it could be purified perfectly, there would be almost no waste. This truth recovery pill could probably be refined into 2 pills. After knowing what to do, Lin Yi smiled faintly and said, "The reward depends on what you are willing to take out. It would be best if you have the same level of spirit grass. If not, you can exchange it with some higher level pill recipes. If not, you can use spiritual jades." Anyway, with a truth recovery pill as a base, Lin Yi would not suffer a loss. Therefore, he did not care much about other rewards. He would take whatever he had and was not picky. Samurai secretly gave Lin Yi a thumbs up. He thought that Master Lin was really good and easy to talk to. Although there was no spirit grass, he could not let others suffer too much. "Master Lin, how about this? I have 3 pill recipes here. 2 are yellow level 7, and 1 is mystic level 1. I will give them to Master Lin. In addition, I will take out 5 million spiritual jades as your alchemy fee. Is that okay?" Samurai asked carefully. This price was very high, but it was nothing compared to the truth recovery pill. Therefore, he was also worried that Lin Yi would not be satisfied. Who knew that Lin Yi was secretly speechless at this time? He did not expect that helping others to refine pills could be so profitable. Thinking back to the last time, 100 Foundation Establishment stage pills were sold for 1,000,000 spiritual jades. The difference in level was huge, and the price difference was even more sky-high. Yes, you can leave the things here and come back tomorrow to get the pills. Lin Yi's face was calm, but he was secretly excited. If he could take on more alchemy business, he might not need to refine the spirit tempering pill. When he reached the extreme North Island, he would have enough spiritual jades to buy the spirit gathering branch and soul wood. Yes, then I will not disturb Master Lin. Samurai was also very happy. He left the things and left. On this ancient warship, he was not worried that Lin Yi would run away with the things. So he even gave Lin Yi the reward. This guy is not bad. We can cooperate more in the future. Lin Yi smiled and whispered to himself. Then, another person came to ask for alchemy. But this time, he only wanted a Huang level 7 pill. And the cost of concocting the pill directly became 200,000 spirit jades. Adding on a Huang level 7 pill recipe, it could be seen from this point that the difference between a Huang level 7 pill and a mystic level 1 pill was like the difference between clouds and mud. If it was not for the fact that he did not have the recipe, Lin Yi did not want to accept this alchemy business. Then a few more waves of people came to visit. Without exception, they all asked Lin Yi to refine yellow level 7 pills. Unfortunately, they all needed pills that Lin Yi had the recipe for. This time, Lin Yi really did not have any interest, with the excuse that he had already agreed to refine pills for others, so he could not accept any more requests in the short term. Lin Yi hung up the Do Not Disturb sign and began to close the door. Thinking about it carefully, Lin Yi suddenly realized that he had made a mistake. Looking at the cost of those level 7 pills, it was actually not much. It could not be compared to the value of the ghost cicada wings. In other words, the ghost cicada wings that Lin Yi thought he could use to refine pills were very likely not taken out, because the level of the pill was not high. Even if someone had it, they did not take it out, because the value was not equal. After thinking about this, Lin Yi was a little annoyed. Although he did say that those who did not want to refine pills could ask for other conditions, such empty words could not be believed. If it was exposed, he might be robbed in the future. In any case, this trade fair was over. If he wanted to continue looking for the ghost cicada wings, he had to rely on the auction in the extreme north. Before that, Lin Yi felt that he should focus on earning enough spirit jades. Then, when he participated in the auction, he would have more confidence. He did not have to use good things like spirit tempering pills to exchange. These things were not enough. There were so many subordinates and confidants waiting. After Lin Yi closed the door and set up the restriction, he began to refine pills. He first completed the yellow level 7 pill that he had been entrusted with. Then he started to refine the truth recovery pill. It was not his first time refining a mystic level 1 pill, so the success rate was still guaranteed. However, there was only one truth recovery grass, so Lin Yi did not dare to be too careless. Every step was very cautious. After generating the alchemy script, the automatic alchemy system estimated that he could produce 2 pills. This made Lin Yi very satisfied with his ability to estimate. It seemed that after refining many pills, at least in terms of eyesight, the improvement was very obvious. After choosing the alchemy method, Lin Yi began to calm his mind and concentrate on refining the truth recovery pill. This time, the refining time was relatively long. It took more than 4 hours to successfully refine. The sky outside was probably already dark. I can produce 2 special quality truth recovery pills on my first time refining. My luck is not bad. Lin Yi happily kept the 2 truth recovery pills. In half a day, he had earned a large amount of spirit jades. It was impossible not to be happy. In fact, normally, the truth recovery pill was not too useful for Lin Yi. After all, he had the support of the endless spirit qi in the space of the jade pendant. In ordinary battles, he was not afraid of the consumption of true qi. Therefore, the truth recovery pill, which was comparable to a life for ordinary mountain opening stage giants, was much less important to him. However, The most precious characteristic of the truth recovery pill was instant recovery. Even the space of the jade pendant could not instantly recover Lin Yi's true qi. From this point of view, Lin Yi felt that it was still very necessary to carry a truth recovery pill with him. Maybe there would be a situation where the space of the jade pendant could not be replenished in time. Seeing that the ghost was still in closed-door cultivation, Lin Yi did not disturb him. He took out a piece of spiritual sense grass root and prepared to continue refining the spirit-quenching pill. He had already felt that the more pills he refined, the stronger his ability in alchemy. Although he still could not refine pills without the Shinnon cauldron or the automatic alchemy system, the success rate and quality of the pills refined with the Shinnon cauldron were stable at an extremely high level. For example, the truth recovery pill, this kind of profound level 1 pill. Before, Lin Yi could not guarantee that the first refining would be successful. It was already good to have a 50% success rate, and the quality could not be guaranteed. But now it was different. Before refining, he was sure that he would succeed, and the quality would definitely not be lower than superior. This was the confidence brought by continuous alchemy. Chapter 5864. Lin Yi's expression changed slightly. This kind of situation had never happened before. The ancient warship was absolutely stable when it was sailing, coupled with the protection of the defensive layer. Even if it hit some small reef groups, the people on the ship wouldn't feel anything. Now that Lin Yi could feel the vibration in the room, something serious must have happened outside. The first thing he thought of was the sea beast tide attack launched by the sea dragon last time. Is it happening again this time? Lin Yi quickly put away the Shinnon cauldron, got up and walked out. Because the space in the jade pendant didn't give any warning, Lin Yi wasn't worried about too much danger. However, his relationship with Okuda Dam was still there. If something happened to the ancient warship, he must go and see if he could help. The vibration wasn't the only one. In the short time that Lin Yi went out, there were 2 more slight vibrations. So when he went out of the door, the people next to him also ran out at almost the same time. Obviously, everyone knew that something had happened. Now was the time to help each other. No one could stay out of it. Boss, what happened? Wei Shinjin saw Lin Yi as soon as he went out, so he immediately asked. Lin Yi nodded at Hong Zhong, Ho Guanqi, and the others and replied, I'm not sure yet. If there was an enemy attack, there should be an alarm. Now there is no alarm, so it's not easy to say. Let's go and see the situation first. Everyone didn't know what happened, so they could only run to the deck with Lin Yi. When they arrived on the deck, there were already more than 10 people who came out. This reaction speed was even faster than Lin Yi and the others. Lin Yi didn't find Okuda Dam with his divine sense. After all, there were too many places on the ancient warship that could block divine sense. Lin Yi, as the captain, was probably commanding the situation on the bridge. Boss, look, there seems to be 2 sea beasts fighting. The aftermath affected us, causing the ancient warship to shake. Wei Shinjin pointed to the distance and exclaimed in a low voice. This was the first time he saw such powerful sea beasts. Just the aftermath of the battle could shake the ancient warship. If it was a frontal attack, how terrifying would it be? I saw it. You guys wait here. I'll go ask Captain Okuda about the situation. Lin Yi frowned slightly. After saying a few words to the people around him, he turned around and ran toward the bridge. As the honorary vice-captain of this ancient warship, he naturally had the right to enter the bridge when there was a crisis. However, it was not convenient to bring other people over unless they were personally invited by Captain Okuda. Actually, as long as the battle between the 2 sea beasts did not directly attack the ancient era's warship, it would have nothing to do with them. Once the victor was determined, the 2 sea beasts would most likely not provoke the ancient era's warship. Now, because the battlefield of these 2 sea beasts happened to be on the sailing route of the fleet, if they wanted to take a detour, they would deviate from the safe sailing route and enter the dangerous sea. Normally, navigators would not do such a thing. If that was the case, there was nothing for Lin Yi to worry about. At most, He would just have to wait for a while. If he didn't want to wait, with the power of the ancient era's warship, it would not be a problem to directly go over and start the battle. However, the problem now was that Lin Yi could faintly feel that Languza might be one of the two sea beasts fighting. After this guy left Middle Island, there had been no news of him. Lin Yi also did not take the initiative to contact him, using the communication pearl. However, he also believed that Languza would not be too far away from the ancient era's warship. If he calculated the distance, the place where the battle was happening should be about the same. Vice Captain Lin. Vice Captain Lin. After Lin Yi entered the bridge, the people who saw him took the initiative to greet him. Last time, if it was not for him controlling the Starfall formation and injuring the Sea Dragon, the ancient era's warship might have sunk to the bottom of the sea. Therefore, the people here sincerely respected Lin Yi. Lin Yi reluctantly suppressed the worry in his heart. He smiled and nodded at them as a greeting. His feet quickly walked towards Okudaba. Brother Lin, you're here. It's okay. It's just two sea beasts fighting. It won't affect us. Previously, because the defensive layer was activated to block the wind and waves, we were shaken by the aftermath of their battle. Now that the strength of the defensive layer has been increased, we won't feel it anymore. Okudaba smiled and waved at Lin Yi. After seeing the Sea Dragon, he did not care about this kind of small battle at all. Moreover, it was not a battle against the ancient era's warship. Lin Yi was not in the mood to say much. He came to Okudaba and asked directly, Brother Okuda, is there any surveillance footage that can show the battle clearly? If it was really Languza fighting there, Lin Yi would help no matter what. However, on the ancient era's warship, although his divine sense could extend over, it would be weakened by the defensive layer. In addition, the fluctuations of the battle were intense. Lin Yi was not confident that he could get an accurate and clear picture. Therefore, he came to the bridge to see the surveillance footage. Okudaba did not think much about it. He only thought that Lin Yi was curious about the scene of the sea beasts fighting. Therefore, he smiled and said, Of course there is. You have a good eye. One of the sea beasts is in the mountain opening stage, although the other one has not reached the mountain opening stage. Its combat power is not weaker than that of the mountain opening stage. It is still very interesting. As he spoke, Okudaba quickly controlled the surveillance formation, and then projected an image generated by the surveillance formation in front of him. This method was much more sophisticated than the technological surveillance in the secular world. However, it was slightly weaker in terms of distance. After all, the secular world could still be monitored through satellites, but the surveillance formation on the ancient era's warship could only cover 1,000 miles of sea at most. Lin Yi looked at the image. There were two sea beasts in battle. One was a huge octopus-like, multi-legged, soft-bodied sea beast, and the other was a blue sea dragon. It was that Languza bastard. Okudaba praised. Brother Lin, look, it's actually a sea dragon. Last time we encountered a sea dragon, I didn't expect to see another sea dragon today. Although it's weak, it has a chance to evolve into a sea dragon. No wonder it can fight against a mountain opening stage sea beast with the strength of a mysterious ascending stage. Lin Yi breathed out a sigh of relief. Just as Okudaba had said, Languza might still be in the ascending stage, but he wasn't at a disadvantage against the giant octopus at the early stage of the mountain opening stage. As expected of a mutated sea serpent, its strength was unparalleled. Chapter 5865. This kind of battle was a rare experience for Languza. If Lin Yi interfered, it wouldn't benefit him at all. Only through constant tough battles could he obtain the opportunity to evolve. Brother Okuda, who do you think will win? Lin Yi asked, pretending to be chatting casually. Okuda laughed and said, That's hard to say. Although the sea serpent is strong, it's only at the profound ascension stage. It's still a long way from reaching the peak stage. As for the octopus, it's a solid early mountain opening stage. If it wasn't for the sea serpent's king aura suppressing part of the octopus's strength, it would have been killed by the octopus. In my opinion, it's more likely that both sides will suffer. Both sides suffer? That might not be the case. Lin smiled faintly. He was very confident in Languza. It's just a battle between realms. It's not difficult. Brother Lin, are you interested in these two sea monsters? If you want to capture or kill them, just say the word. Okuda waved his hand. With the strength of the ancient warship, dealing with two mountain opening stage sea monsters was easy, not to mention that the sea serpent wasn't even at the mountain opening stage yet. Lin smiled and said, I'm interested in that sea serpent, but I don't need Brother Okuda's help. I'll fly over to take a look later. If possible, I'll form a good relationship with the sea serpent. At that time, Brother Okuda just needs to open the defensive layer and let me out. Okuda was slightly startled. Brother Lin, with your strength, riding a flying spirit beast won't be too dangerous. But with the ancient warship, why take the risk? Brother Okuda, don't worry, I know what I'm doing. Right, lend me one of the flying spirit beasts on the ship. Wait for my signal, and open the defensive layer. Lin did not explain much. This was a good opportunity for Languza to appear. In addition, he also wanted to watch Languza closely, lest this guy really perish together with the octopus. Seeing that Lin was so insistent, Okuda didn't say anything else. He nodded and said, in that case, Brother Lin, you should be careful. I will prepare the starfall array. If any sea beast dares to attack you, we will kill it. Lin broke out in a cold sweat and said, Brother Okuda, let's forget about the starfall array. It's too powerful and consumes too much energy. An ordinary offensive array will do. With Okuda's rough control, Lin was very worried that the starfall array would accidentally land on his head before it could kill the sea beast. That would be too unfair. So for safety's sake, it was better to let Okuda give up on this idea. You're right, the starfall array is my trump card. I can't use it easily. Forget it, just be careful. I will support you at any time. Okuda smiled and patted Lin Yi's shoulder. He then turned around and asked someone to prepare a flying spirit beast for Lin Yi. Lin Yi thanked him and immediately left the bridge. He returned to the deck and waited for the flying spirit beast to arrive. At this time, Samurai quickly walked over and cupped his fists. Master Lin, did those two sea beasts affect you? Lin Yi had spent a lot of money to buy the truth recovery grass. Spirit jades were secondary, but the truth recovery pill couldn't have any problems. It was related to the safety of the person behind him. So when he saw Lin Yi come out, Samurai was naturally a little worried. Lin Yi originally said that he would give him the pill tomorrow. It wasn't appropriate to take it out now. So he casually smiled and said, It's all right. Don't worry, just come back tomorrow. Vice Sect Leader Ling, did you really ask this guy to refine the truth recovery pill? Then you have to be mentally prepared. I don't think you can get your truth recovery grass back. Zhang Dongjue suddenly interjected with a sneer. He had a worried expression on his face, as though he was acting the truth. Samurai's face slightly sank. He coldly said, Vice Hall Leader Zhang, what do you mean by that? Are you trying to sow discord between me and Master Lin? Zhang Tianqing, who was next to Zhang Dongjue, stared at Samurai disdainfully and said, A dog bites Lu Dongbin. You don't know how to appreciate good intentions. You are a country bumpkin. You are really stupid and pitiful. Don't you know that if you ask an alchemist to refine a pill, the alchemist will not bear any responsibility if it fails? So what? Samurai didn't want to pay attention to Zhang Tianqing, but he still wanted to hear what he had to say. So he subconsciously asked. As for asking an alchemist to refine a pill, if it failed, it was equivalent to getting nothing. As the vice sect leader of the Thousand Blades sect, of course, he was clear about this. This was also the rule of the alchemist industry. Otherwise, if the alchemist failed, he would have to pay for it out of his own pocket. Then, who the hell would refine a pill for you? A country bumpkin is a country bumpkin. He still asks a what? Zhang Tianqing looked at Ling Wuzong with pity in his eyes, as if talking to him was a great charity. I'll teach you a lesson today. An alchemist's alchemy isn't as simple as you think. Under normal circumstances, after refining a pill, you need to rest for a period of time. The length of this period is determined by the grade of the pill you're refining. For example, for a Huang level 7 pill, you need to rest for at least 10 days to half a month after refining. Do you understand what I mean? Ling Wuzong was slightly taken aback. He wasn't an alchemist, so he really didn't know what was going on. Those alchemists who concocted pills for others usually wouldn't say such things out loud. However, it was true that alchemists of the 6th or 7th level would only accept a commission every 10 days to half a month. Ling Wuzong was aware of this. Thinking about how Lin Yi had just refined the yin and yang pill before. How long had it been? But he said that he could successfully refine the pill tomorrow. When Samurai thought of this, he couldn't help but feel a little flustered. Zheng Dongjue laughed. Vice Master Ling, we're thinking for your sake. You asked Lin Yi to concoct the elixir, but he clearly just concocted the yin-yang pill. He won't be able to concoct any more in the near future. If he promised you that he would be able to concoct the elixir in 2 days, he'll most likely take your grass of recovery. I advise you to get the grass back. Zheng Tianqing also said, our Dan Hall's masterly Zeus alchemy level is much better than this guy's. After refining a pill, he also needs to rest for many days. Do you really think that this guy is better than masterly Zeo? Chapter 5866. Any sect that wasn't part of the 10 small sects would give it their all as long as they got the reserve qualification, regardless of whether they had the ability or not. What if they succeeded? Alright, Tyrant Blade Sect's challenge to High Feather Sect will begin immediately. You all know the rules, right? The Great Elder of the ruined town nodded and continued. I will repeat the rules again. The rest of you listen up. The rules of the 10 small sects challenge this time are the same as before. There will still be 3 matches. Nascent Soul, Golden Core, and Foundation Establishment will each have 1 match. 2 wins out of 3 matches. If the challenge is successful, the challenger will advance to the 10 small sects, and the challenged will be the last reserve. If the first 4 challenges are successful, they will still have the chance to challenge the 10 small sects again. They can also choose to give up. The second reserve will advance to the first reserve and continue to have the right to challenge the 10 small sections. They can also challenge those who have just advanced. If they fail, the order will not change. The second reserve will not have the right to challenge the 10 small sects unless they choose to gamble. Do you all understand? The Great Elder of the ruined town explained the rules unhurriedly. In fact, everyone knew that it was just a formality. Wei Dao cupped his fists respectfully and bowed. Thank you for your explanation, Elder. We all understand. Tyrant Blade Sect's first Foundation Establishment battle will be fought by us juniors. The Great Elder of Ruins Town made a sound of acknowledgement, then turned to the Xuanyu School's side and said, who will be participating in the Xuanyu School's Foundation Establishment competition? Come up the stage immediately. I'll do it. A Foundation Establishment Perfection disciple stood up from High Feather Sect's camp and walked up the stage with an imposing manner. High Feather Sect's Yu Lingfeng is here to accept the challenge. Yu Lingfeng said expressionlessly. His eyes revealed traces of anger. Although the High Feather School was one of the weaker sects among the 10 minor sects, they were not the weakest of the 10 minor sects. The Tyrant Blade School had chosen the High Feather School right from the start. They had really underestimated the High Feather School. It would be strange if Yu Lingfeng treated Wei Yidao well. Wei Yidao shrugged and laughed strangely. What an imposing manner. I wonder what will happen when they fight. Hopefully, they aren't just paper tigers. Tyrant Blade Sect's Wei Yidao. Before his voice faded away, Wei Yidao pulled out his thick-backed long saber with a shake of his hand and swung it toward Yu Lingfeng's body. The Great Elder of the Ruins Town raised his eyebrows slightly. He had not announced the start of the fight, but Wei Yidao had already made the first move. Strictly speaking, this was against the rules. However, the Great Elder of the Ruins Town was originally a member of the Qingkuan sect, and the Tyrant Blade School was a branch of the Qingkuan sect. Of course, he would ignore such a small detail if he could. Yu Lingfeng narrowed his eyes. Even though he didn't expect Wei Yidao to suddenly attack, He didn't panic in the slightest. With a light tap of his foot, he flew into the air. At the same time, he raised his hands and dozens of steel short feathers shot out. Wei Yidao's long saber moved horizontally and horizontally. The momentum of the saber was fierce and tyrannical. It was worthy of the name tyrannical. Before Yu Lingfeng's steel short feathers could get close, they were engulfed by the momentum of Wei Yidao's saber, and completely lost their accuracy. Petty tricks. Is this all the Xianyu school can do? Wei Yidao laughed crazily as he stepped forward. The momentum of his saber increased once again. The steel short feathers that were engulfed by the saber all fell to the ground. They didn't even have the ability to stop Wei Yidao. However, Yu Lingfeng, who was in the air, didn't show any signs of panic. Instead, there was a faint mocking smile on his face. With a shake of his hands, his body, which had already started to fall, suddenly rose again. It was as if he had a pair of invisible wings on his back. Light feather arrow. Yu Lingfeng ignored Wei Yidao's provocation. He only let out a low roar, and the true energy in his body surged. The steel short feathers that had been engulfed by Wei Yidao's saber actually flew back to Wei Yidao from the ground. Not only that, the steel short feathers that flew back gave off a faint white light. Whether it was speed or strength, they were more than twice as strong as before. In an instant, the steel short feathers were within half a foot of Wei Yidao's body. If there were no changes, Wei Yidao's body would immediately have dozens of bloody holes. Haha, interesting. Facing this kind of danger, Wei Yidao actually laughed twice. The saber in his hand did not change direction, but his feet moved strangely a few times. With just a slight movement of his body, Yu Lingfeng's light feather arrow flew past Wei Yidao's body. The closest one even scratched Wei Yidao's clothes, leaving a small hole. However, it still didn't hurt Wei Yidao in the slightest. In the air, Yu Lingfeng's expression finally changed slightly. At this time, Wei Yidao's saber, which carried an unparalleled saber momentum, had already closed in on Yu Lingfeng. Yu Lingfeng could only shake his arms again and change his body in the air for the second time. This was already his limit. No matter how agile the Xianyu school's movement technique was, Yu Lingfeng was still only at the foundation establishment stage. If he still couldn't shake off Wei Yidao's pursuit, then he could only face Wei Yidao's saber head-on. In order to save his life, Yu Lingfeng yelled when he changed his body. Turn. The fine steel short feathers that flew past Wei Yidao immediately turned around nimbly like fish in water, and shot towards Wei Yidao again. At such a close distance, Yu Lingfeng did not believe that Wei Yidao could use his footwork to dodge. Even if he could dodge, it would definitely affect the momentum of his blade. If that was the case, it would at least give Yu Lingfeng a chance to catch his breath. Wei Yidao laughed disdainfully and said, "Have you exhausted your limited abilities? Then there's nothing fun to do." As he spoke, the saber momentum didn't change. After a slight adjustment, it continued to chase after Yu Lingfeng. As for the fine steel short feathers that turned into light feather arrows, Wei Yidao didn't continue to use his footwork to dodge. Instead, he held the saber sheath in his left hand and used it as a saber to slash again. The ferocious saber momentum instantly split the air in front of Wei Yidao, emitting a violent sonic boom. The fine steel short feathers that were flying towards Yu Lingfeng were completely cut off by this saber. One by one, they bounced off to both sides. Some of them were even directly chopped into pieces by the saber momentum. Yu Lingfeng's expression finally changed completely. He thought that Wei Yidao's previous saber strike was the result of him going all out. He didn't expect that it was completely not the case. From this saber strike, it could be seen that Wei Yidao had held back a lot of strength. In other words, this saber strike that chased after Yu Lingfeng was just a casual strike from Wei Yidao. When did Wei Yidao of the Tyrant Saber sect become so powerful? With this kind of strength, even if he were to jump levels and deal with a weaker early-stage gold core cultivator, it wouldn't be a problem, right? These thoughts flashed through Yu Lingfeng's mind in a flash. Then, Wei Yidao's saber had already arrived in front of him. Chapter 5869. But if Samurai chose to believe Lin Yi, then in Lin Yi's heart, he would really become a worthy friend. Where did this mad dog come from barking here so annoying? If you don't get out of here, watch out for my stick. Seeing that Lin Yi had come back, Wei Shenjin hurried to greet him, and happened to hear Zheng Tianqing's words, so he immediately turned hostile and mocked. Zheng Tianqing's eyes turned cold, and he said coldly, "You're courting death. We'll know who's courting death after we fight." Wei Shenjin retorted without showing any weakness. Zheng Tianqing thought of himself as a genius, but he, Wei Shenjin, was definitely not inferior. Originally, Wei Shenjin was recognized as a genius disciple of the Snow Sword faction. After following Lin Yi, he had enough elixirs to take, so he did not need to worry about cultivation resources at all. In terms of strength, he could also suppress Zheng Tianqing, so he was not afraid of this arrogant genius of the East Continent at all. Samurai took a deep breath, stood between the two and said, "Young heroes don't make unnecessary disputes. We are all in the same boat, so it's better to make peace. Since I chose to ask Master Lin to help me refine elixirs, it is naturally because I believe in Master Lin. So no matter whether he succeeds or fails, I will support Master Lin to continue refining elixirs. Deputy Hall Leader Zheng, you don't need to worry about me." To be honest, after listening to the words of the two people of the Zheng family, Samurai inevitably felt a little uneasy, but he also knew that if he proposed to restore the elixir now, he would really offend Lin Yi. As the owner of the Tiandam Pavilion, and the honorary deputy captain of the ancient warship, if he dared to propose to restore the elixir, it was equal to saying in public that Lin Yi wanted to steal his elixir. How stupid would he be to do that? Did the Thousand Blades faction still want to stay on the ship? Since that was the case, Samurai, of course, had to firmly express his belief in Lin Yi. Lin Yi didn't know that Samurai had thought of so many ideas in such a short time. Anyway, he was satisfied with the result. "Wei Shenjin, we have to give face to Vice Sect Master Ling. There's no need to bother with those boring people." Lin Yi smiled faintly as he spoke to Wei Shenjin. Then he turned to Samurai and said, "Vice Sect Leader Ling, don't worry. Once I, Lin Yi, say something, I will always do it. Come and get the pills tomorrow. If I don't have any pills for you, I will compensate you twice the amount." Master Lin is too serious. Samurai hurriedly cupped his fists and said, "I believe that Master Lin will definitely succeed. Even if something goes wrong, our Thousand Blades faction won't pester endlessly and ask for any losses. This is all within a reasonable range. If Master Lin says this again, I'm going to die." Lin Yi smiled faintly and waved his hand. "Alright, Vice Sect Leader Ling, let's cut to the chase. There will be results tomorrow. My, Ling Yi's reputation isn't something that can be destroyed by a mere stalk of truth restoration grass." Samurai heard this and immediately calmed down. That's right. With Lin Yi's reputation, let alone a stalk of truth restoration grass, even 10 or 100 times more wouldn't be able to match it. In that case, the possibility of successfully refining the truth restoration pill was indeed very high. Lin Yi really didn't play a trick. At this time, the flying spirit beast on the ancient warship was sent over. After Lin Yi rode on it, he called out to Hong Zhong, Ho Guanqi and the others. Then, he soared into the sky through the gap in the defensive layer, and flew towards the battlefield in the distance. Hong Zhong and the others were very surprised. They didn't understand why Lin Yi wanted to fly there, but now they couldn't ask. The gap in the ancient warship was closed again. Even if they wanted to follow, it was impossible. They could only wait for Lin Yi to return. When Zheng Tianqing saw Lin Yi suddenly fly out, he secretly rejoiced in his heart. He only hoped that Lin Yi would die outside. It would save him a lot of trouble. Zheng Dongjue said in a low voice, "Tianqing, do you think Lin Yi can really refine pills continuously? The yin and yang pill is not a simple pill. Moreover, he refined it alone. To be honest, I find it a little strange that he can be so lively now. How can he refine the truth restoration pill?" Second Grandpa, let's not talk about the yin and yang pill. If Lin Yi can really refine pills continuously, I guess it's because he took a pill to restore his vitality. However, This method for an alchemist is simply drinking poison to quench thirst. It can't solve the fundamental problem. Let's not talk about whether he has enough pills to recover. If he eats too much of this kind of thing, it will produce pill toxins. It will have a great impact on cultivation and alchemy. Zheng Tianqing was also an excellent alchemist, so he immediately gave his own guess. Zheng Dongjue clapped his hands and whispered with a smile. Tianqing, you're right. Lin Yi definitely took a pill to restore his vitality. In addition to wanting to make a fortune, I guess he also wants to show off on this ship. Anyway, there's no loss if he fails. If he succeeds, it will be great. Second Grandpa, I thought of a wonderful plan. Zheng Tianqing's eyes lit up. He whispered in Zheng Dongjue's ear. Since this fool Lin Yi wants to show off and earn spirit jades, let's satisfy his vanity. Arrange for someone to take a profound level 1 pill to him to refine pills. Let him constantly consume the pills to restore his vitality. In this way, when we get to the extreme North Island, he can only be at our mercy. Zheng Dongjue pulled Zheng Tianqing to a secluded place. He lowered his voice to a barely audible level and said, Tianqing, your idea is very good. It's not worse than Tong Wulsuo's. You really are our Zheng family's Qilin. Zheng Tianqing had a proud look on his face, but he still pretended to be humble and said, Second Grandpa, you flatter me. It's just a flash of inspiration. The only problem now is, do we have enough main ingredients for the Mystic Level 1 pills? Don't worry. We are representing the Dan Hall. How can we be short of elixirs? If Lin Yi succeeds in refining the elixirs, the value of the elixirs will increase by several times. If he fails, it will also ruin his reputation. Whether he succeeds or fails, as long as he refines the elixirs, we have achieved our goal. This plan is simply perfect. The more Zheng Dongjue thought about it, the more reliable he felt. Before, he still looked down on Zheng Tianqing. He felt that this kid was somewhat unworthy of his reputation. He didn't expect that today he would look at him in a new light. Both of them felt that the plan was perfect. So they didn't discuss it with Tong Wulsuo and Zheng Dongsheng. They directly began to look for candidates. They were ready to wait for Lin Yi to come back and ask for the elixirs. Lin Yi didn't know that there would be such a good thing waiting for him. He was now close to the sea where the battle took place. Chapter 5870. Languza didn't show any weakness. The sea dragon's body was extremely tyrannical, and Languza's body had been mutated and tempered by thunder and lightning. The strength of his body was comparable to that of a sea dragon. Although the octopus's whip was painful, it wasn't enough to cause fatal damage to Languza. Therefore, these two guys almost gave up using martial arts to attack. They were completely exchanging injuries for injuries, using the simplest and most brutal way to fight for their lives. Lin Yi secretly shook his head. This guy, Languza, thought that he had made some progress, but he was still so reckless. This sea area wasn't a safe place. The sea beasts in the early stage of the mountain opening stage weren't very powerful. Were they making such a big noise because they were afraid that the powerful sea beasts wouldn't know that there was a delicious meal here? If they continued to let them fight, let alone these two guys, even Lin Yi's fleet would probably encounter danger. Therefore, Lin Yi, who originally didn't plan to intervene, now changed his mind. Languza, if you can't kill this octopus in 1 minute, I will make my move. Lin Yi transmitted his voice to Languza. If he could really kill this octopus in 1 minute, it would be the best thing. Languza had already seen Lin Yi coming over, but the battle was fierce, so he didn't dare to be distracted. Now that he heard the boss's order, Languza suddenly became excited. Boss, rest assured, I will finish the battle in 1 minute. However, I want to eat grilled octopus skewers. I'm tired of eating sashimi these days. While talking, Languza launched the most violent attack. With Lin Yi on the side, he didn't need to hold back. Going all out was the wisest thing to do. Lin Yi couldn't help but smile. This foodie really wouldn't forget to eat no matter where he went. It was really hard for him. In this sea, he didn't have the fire attribute. If he didn't eat raw, what else could he eat? Don't even think about grilled octopus skewers. Before you return to my side, think of a way to solve it yourself. Lin Yi couldn't be bothered with this foodie. If he really grilled octopus skewers for him, who knew if he would get an emperor crab for Lin Yi to help him steam it? Languza muttered, lamenting that he could only continue to live a pitiful life of eating raw meat and drinking blood. He then vented all his dissatisfaction on the octopus. Unfortunately, the octopus was truly powerful. No matter how hard Languza tried, he couldn't take it down in a short period of time. Lin Yi waited for the minute to be up, and immediately waved his soul-reaping hand, directly hooking the octopus's essence soul. This was the essence soul of a sea beast at the mountain opening stage. Of course, the strength of its essence soul was only at the early mysterious ascension stage compared to a human, but this was not important. The important thing was that the essence soul of this sea beast was enough to support Lin Yi's spiritual sense consumption for many days. Languza opened his huge mouth and bit the body of the octopus sea beast. He secretly dug out the inner Dan and handed it to Lin Yi. At the same time, he also gave Lin Yi 3 mysterious ascension stage and 5 nascent soul stage sea beast inner dawn. This was probably the result of swallowing them in the past few days. It seemed that his appetite was still good. In the future, don't do things that you're not sure of. If you get swallowed instead, you won't have a place to cry. Lin Yi quickly put away the inner dawn and once again exhorted. Languza smiled and said, "Boss, don't worry, I won't do it next time. Today was just a coincidence. I didn't deliberately provoke this guy. Fortunately, boss came to help me. After I eat this guy, there won't be any problem in leveling up. Maybe I can directly reach the peak of the mysterious ascension stage. If I encounter this kind of strength again, I can handle it by myself." "Okay, you do what you want, be careful." Lin Yi waved his hand and let Languza leave quickly. Although it was a little dangerous, Languza's strength was obviously improving. Maybe it won't be long before this guy can enter the mountain opening stage. Languza nodded slightly and said, "Okay boss, take care, I'll go first." After that, he used his mouth to bite the body of the octopus, circled around and dived to the bottom of the sea. The most urgent thing for Languza was to find a quiet place to properly digest the octopus and transform it into his own strength. Lin Yi did not delay and controlled the flying spirit beast to fly back to the ancient warship. The people on the deck saw that Lin Yi seemed to be communicating with the sea dragon. They were very curious about him, but no one came over to say anything. At this stage, the spiritual wisdom of sea beasts was no different from that of humans. It was not surprising that they could communicate with each other. After returning the flying spirit beast, Lin Yi did not go to Okuda-ba again. Instead, he directly returned to his room and continued to refine elixirs. No matter what, he had promised Samurai that he would give him elixirs tomorrow. Today, he had to pretend to be serious about alchemy. The fleet also continued to move forward according to the established route and quickly left the sea. Fortunately, they did not encounter any other powerful sea beasts. It could be said that it was very peaceful. The next morning, Samurai came to Lin Yi's door and waited. In addition to him, there were 2 other people who came to ask for elixirs. One was the person who entrusted Lin Yi to refine a 7th grade yellow rank elixir yesterday. The other was the person who brought the herbs to Lin Yi to refine a 1st grade mystic rank elixir. Of course, this was secretly arranged by Zheng Dongjue and Zheng Tianqing. Lin Yi saw that Samurai had come. He did not let him wait for long. He opened the room's restriction and invited him in. As for the other 2, they continued to wait. "Master Lin, is the alchemy over?" Samurai asked with some apprehension. He was afraid that Lin Yi would say that it was a failure. He was also worried that he came too early and affected him. Anyway, before seeing the Zhenfu Dan, Samurai's mood could not calm down. Lin Yi smiled slightly. He took out a jade bottle containing a Zhenfu Dan and handed it to Samurai. "Fortunately, I did not disappoint you. The Zhenfu Dan was successfully refined. Thank you, Vice Sect Leader Ling, for believing in me." Samurai was overjoyed. The big stone in his heart finally fell. After taking the jade bottle, he did not immediately check it. Instead, he cupped his fists and said to Lin Yi, Master Lin is really a man of his word. I deeply admire you. As for believing in Master Lin's words, to tell you the truth, my heart has been a little uneasy. Now that I got the elixir, I dare to say that I am completely at ease. Lin Yi had a deep impression of Samurai's frankness. This person was really worth befriending. If Samurai said some beautiful words, it would make him feel disappointed. Chapter 5871. Samurai was even more overjoyed. To be able to obtain Lin Yi's friendship might be more valuable than the Zhenfu pill in his hands. He immediately thanked him, and then opened the jade bottle to take a look. This glance almost made Samurai throw the jade bottle in his hand. He never thought that the Zhenfu pill that Lin Yi refined was actually of special quality. After grabbing the jade bottle in a hurry, Samurai's gaze towards Lin Yi completely changed. At first, he had some doubts about whether Lin Yi could concoct the pill after listening to the two from House Zheng's. Even if he was confident in himself in the end, it was only because Lin Yi hadn't been concocting the yin-yang pill for long. It would be good enough if he could concoct a low-level pill. If he could concoct a mid-level pill, then he would be lucky. As for the superior quality Zhenfu pill, Samurai almost didn't dare to hope for it. But what was it now? Now it was a special quality Zhenfu pill. A mystic level 1 alchemist, who had never refined a Zhenfu pill before, could refine a special quality one? Even if Samurai didn't know much about alchemy, he wouldn't think that such a thing would happen. In other words, Lin Yi was likely to be a mystic level 2 alchemist. This wasn't a simple matter of one level higher. The status of a mystic level 2 alchemist and a mystic level 1 alchemist couldn't be mentioned in the same breath. If Samurai was only full of respect for Lin Yi before, then it had risen to the level of awe. Master Lin, I didn't expect you to be a mystic level 2 alchemist. No wonder you can refine the yin and yang pill alone. And you're still so young. It's really amazing. Samurai put away the jade bottle and bowed respectfully. Lin Yi didn't explain. Anyway, with his current strength, Shennon Cauldron could also refine a mystic level 2 alchemist. So it wasn't wrong to say that he was a mystic level 2 alchemist. However, the yin and yang pill wasn't something that a mystic level 2 alchemist could refine alone. Without the help of Lin Yi's automatic alchemy system, one must have water and fire dual spiritual roots and be able to fuse yin and yang. Otherwise, even a mystic level 7 alchemist would need 2 people to refine it. After knowing Lin Yi's true alchemy ability, Samurai couldn't help but be more cautious. After saying a few words, he got up and left. After all, there were still 2 people waiting outside. He didn't know if he was delaying Lin Yi's time. In any case, Samurai had decided to be on good terms with Lin Yi. Having such a powerful alchemist as a friend would be of great benefit to the entire Thousand Blades sect. After sending away Samurai, Lin Yi let the second person come in and give him the refined alchemy. There was nothing much to say. It was just a yellow level 7 alchemy pill. The other party was naturally very satisfied with the quality of the alchemy pill. Lin Yi didn't care and sent him away. Zheng Tianqing, who was peeking at the situation from a corner, was secretly happy. He turned to Zheng Dongjue and said, Second Grandpa, look at Samurai and Lin Yi. They both came out with smiles on their faces. Obviously they got the alchemy pill. It seems that Lin Yi really used the alchemy pill to restore his physical strength. The next one is our people. Did you arrange for more people to come in? If it's just one person refining alchemy, Lin Yi won't completely collapse. Don't worry, I arranged for 4 people. All 4 of them are mystic level 1 alchemy pills. I heard that he rejected a lot of commissions for yellow level 7 alchemy pills yesterday. I guess it's because there are too few spirit jades, so he doesn't want them. Zheng Dongjue sneered and said lightly, Today's orders are all mystic level 1 alchemy pills. Let's see if he has the guts to take them all. The first person went in and came out after a few minutes. He made a secret gesture at the door of Lin Yi. indicating that he had successfully commissioned Lin Yi to refine alchemy pills. At the same time, the people who were arranged later also arrived and entered Lin Yi's room one by one. Zheng Dongjue and Zheng Tianqing couldn't help but feel a little nervous. They wanted Lin Yi to take on all of them, but they were also worried that if Lin Yi really took on all of them and failed, it'd be too big of a loss for them. The main ingredients of Mystic Level 1 alchemy pills were expensive and rare spirit grass. Not to mention, in order to ask Lin Yi to refine alchemy pills, Zheng Dongjue also put in a lot of effort. If he could prepare 2 sets of spirit jades, then he prepared 2 sets of spirit jades. If he didn't have 2 sets, he also brought enough spirit jades. The amount of spirit jades given to Lin Yi was a total of 15 million. This was not a small amount. Even if it was the vice hall master of the Dan Hall, taking out so many spirit jades all at once would be quite painful. The second commission was successful, the third commission was successful, and the fourth finally came out. It was still a successful commission. Zheng Dongjue and Zheng Tianqing quietly retreated. Their hearts were half happy and half worried. But their plan was finally carried out smoothly. If Lin Yi really took the alchemy pill to recover, then he would be courting death. Lin Yi didn't expect his business to be so good. It seemed that reputation was really important. Yesterday it was all yellow level 7 alchemy pills, and today it was 4 mystic level 1 alchemy pills in a row. If it was an ordinary alchemist, they would at most earn some spirit jades. But he was different. With the Shennon cauldron in his hand, the harvest of an alchemy pill was a sure thing. Coupled with the 15 million spirit jades as a reward, it was really enough to earn. If Lin Yi knew that this was all arranged by Zheng Dongjue and Zheng Tianqing, he would give them 32 points of praise. They were really too considerate to be enemies to this extent. They sent alchemy recipes, alchemy pills and spirit jades. As a responsible enemy, Lin Yi would only say one sentence to them. Is there more? After the 4 orders were completed, it was almost the beginning of a new day. Calculating the time, it was almost the northern island. Lin Yi did not continue to refine alchemy pills. After putting away the Shennon cauldron, he stood up and stretched his body. He felt quite happy. This time, although he had not participated in the auction on the northern island, Lin Yi had already gained a lot. With such good luck, if he could continue to the auction, it would be very easy to get what he wanted. The sky was still dark. Lin Yi came to the deck and looked up at the sky full of stars. He only felt that his fatigue quickly dissipated. If it wasn't for Zheng Tianqing, this idiot, coming over, he would be more happy. Lin Yi, I heard that you received a lot of alchemy pills. Why don't you hurry to refine alchemy pills? Could it be that you failed? So you secretly ran to the deck in the middle of the night to cry? Zheng Tianqing said with a laugh. Although if Lin Yi failed, it would be their Zheng family's loss, he was satisfied to see Lin Yi suffer. You're tuning in to the Li Mei's Sword of Destiny YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support. And don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.